I'd like to, I guess first just say, when we're talking about policies this evening, one of the policies that we recently added is to have public comment on action items at our work session so that we could increase public discussion and public input when we're having these decisions. I do question making this kind of change to our policy with such short notice and not getting it out to everyone in time that may want to come and speak this evening, because we did as a board spend a lot of time making that policy for the work session, and that's how we decided that it would go. So I'd just like to hear thoughts on that change.
I was under the impression that at the last meeting that we were going to be getting more parent and teacher input. I feel like getting that input at the beginning of the discussions of the policy changes makes sense to me, instead of for us to sit here and spend all this time reviewing and rewriting policy and then throwing it out the window if we find out that we guessed wrong. And that's not what parents, teachers, and staff want to see from us. And then also, for me, after having spent an afternoon out at this school last week, the behavior was so much worse than I could have ever possibly imagined that I feel like extreme times call for extreme measures, and there's always the exception to the rule. And we're here, we clearly moved the meeting to this school. I assumed it was for a reason that this school was having such serious problems. So, and I know we have allowed and made exceptions to rules with, allowing teachers to come in and have private closed meeting sessions with us about, their dislike for cameras. So it seems fair to me that we would open it up and do it in an open meeting. And
I thought when the teachers came in that they talked with two of us at a time over at the school board office. So that really wasn't a meeting with all of us. Am I right about that, or am I mixed up?
We did do it that way, and I do fully support having an actual back-to-back conversation, face-to-face, and having a two-way conversation. So, I don't have strong opinions either way about this evening, but I think I would absolutely ask this board to support me in scheduling a separate meeting where we can have a better conversation, where it's not just our public speaking to us for 3 minutes, us staring at them, and then trying to follow up with people through email or phone calls later, and we don't always have those contacts and we can't always make those connections. So I'd like to see us just decide, hey, when can we do something like that?
town hall style.
Because we are at the beginning of this discussion now, and then that way we can actually have some conversation versus just the public comment format.
Yeah, at the last meeting, I guess it was before we went into closed session for a personnel issue, I believe. There was a pretty good little break there, over 10 minutes. Might have been longer than that. And I kind of enjoyed that because I went out and spoke to people, and people would make their comments, some positive, some negative, etc. And I thought that was pretty productive, because a two-way conversation is always best. And so I would be really happy to see a forum where we come in, discuss, say, the discipline issue, and discuss it as a board. And then, I don't know how you would run the meeting, but put it into an open meeting where we can go out and greet the people that are there, talk face to face, and then maybe have a little summary afterwards what we learned. I think that's productive for everybody.
It was. It comes back to that meeting last time where we had so many public comments, and then we did get to spend that maybe 10 minutes talking to everybody. But I'm picturing something like that, but just it's organized to be that way, not just
that's fine.
us trying to get to the closed session, and we're just better prepared, and we've advertised it well so that everybody can come and have the opportunity to speak and do that.
It also gives people a chance to meet us face to face, and rather than a telephone call or an email, that type of thing. So yeah, I would really like that, something on that nature, and no real time limit, just open it up and go for it.
Yeah, I think we would want to think about, I mean, I agree with you guys that we want to think about different ways that we can engage with our community, because it is very important, and I know that's something that all of us want. I think the community comment is very valuable, and a lot of community members do want to stand up and have everyone hear their story and have it recorded. On the other hand, I think there are also times and also people who just don't want to be speaking publicly. They don't want to air their child's dirty laundry or whatever it might be, whatever private things might have happened with their family, but they still want to talk to us. And that's where I feel like maybe having a closed session or meeting with 2 board members at a time might be valuable too. Those are things that we have accommodated when people have asked, but I think that in the interest of openness, it might be helpful for us to just have like a process, or like just advertise that they can do that and make opportunities for people to sign up and do that. In terms of this meeting today, I had some concerns with the way that was brought up yesterday by an email among this board, because I don't think that is the way this board is supposed to communicate. I think we should be having this conversation as we are right now in public. When that's done by email, it's not public, the public can't
It's
see it.
foilable. It's absolutely foilable.
It's foilable,
and I
but
expected
people
it to
don't
be on the
necessarily know to
agenda.
foil it. I mean, that's why we're not supposed to have decisions being made by email.
But again, I expected it to be on the agenda, so it wasn't on the agenda, and then requested that it be on the agenda.
My other thought is that, myself, I'm a very busy person, and I know many of us are. I get frustrated when I see things like this that happen, and obviously I was going to be here this time, so this is not for me, but when things like this happen, and not even necessarily school board stuff, but like activities my kids are in, if things show up the day before or 2 days before and I can't make it, I get frustrated, because like if I would have known ahead of time, I could have made it, and then I see that I can't. So that's another reason why I like your idea of whether we decide to hear comment tonight or not. I think it's really important that we make sure that those opportunities are available to people who maybe didn't know about tonight or weren't able to make it tonight in the future. So that's, I just, in the interest of being open, I want to make sure that we would, if we allow that opportunity tonight especially, we would need to also allow it in the future for other people who might be interested.
And I would concur. I did have some concerns about those emails, because we all are, have lives, and just like all of our community members, and we have to, work through all of those things, and we can't always immediately respond to an email. When it goes out, we have to give time for people to be able to check emails and respond. So I do agree with having those conversations here. But I very much like the idea of having that opportunity for a back and forth, because the way things are set up, I get it. It is 100% challenging when you have people coming up and, we know that we are hearing them, but we don't always have the opportunity to individually respond to them or to have any kind of follow-up. And I always want to make sure we have follow-up. Our follow-up may not always be something we're going to agree on. We might have to agree to disagree, but it's important that, we have some follow-up. And sometimes I do feel like some of our community members who speak, they might feel very defeated because they've talked and they might not feel like anything has happened. So if we can create some kind of forum when we have some of these items that come up that are hitting every level of our community, and we want to engage our community and we want to work collaboratively with them, I think that's a great forum to have that dialogue back and forth. They have those opportunities, so I'm certainly, for that.
So what would be the mechanics of setting that up? Would it be a special meeting called for that?
We would
And
just
that would
post
be
it as
the
a-
only thing? Okay.
And then we would give, I would say a minimum of a week for people to know, so that it's out there, so that they can change their schedule as they need to. I don't know, personally, I would picture it sort of the same as our public comment goes, you know, a time allotment for people to talk, and then we can go out and hopefully have individual conversations, follow-up groups, however it sort of naturally would go. I think as we saw at the last meeting, it can kind of, everyone starts to want to speak if you're just sitting in kind of that big room together, but, you know, if we all are set up that way, I think, and planned for it. I liked that last meeting, but it wasn't the appropriate place or time to have that kind of back and forth.
But it was,
But we need to do that.
it was kind of spontaneous, and that was kind of nice about it. You can learn from something like that, so.
Well, and I think we need to have the flexibility, you know, as a board working through, and, you know, what has always been done in the past doesn't always work, and we need to be able to be flexible, hear what the needs are, pivot and make adjustments as we go. And always try to do better, so I think that's a good
It all,
opportunity.
I'm
for
sorry.
that. No, it's fine.
You know, we've tried the town hall thing. I think you tried it in your district, and the attendance was poor.
Yeah, that was reminding me. I was thinking about that because I remember we did try that, and we had poor attendance. I know I would love to do that with Happy Creek. You know, so we can maybe bring those back to the table too. I think we kind of had some discussions.
Yeah, Cheryl and I did it about a year ago in South River, and we had a great turnout from social services, Front Royal Police Department.
There was
sheriff's-
multiple people.
All of our community services came.
people
and we had
weren't there.
2 people
People.
come. Yeah, so, but I think we have a lot of engagement and a lot of topics to talk about right now, so I think I would anticipate our turnout to be better if we advertise it as a board and gave this opportunity.
And I
It could
think
be,
it's worthwhile anyway. I mean, at least we've given the opportunity. And for those 2 people, I would imagine they appreciated it.
since the town hall didn't really work that well, maybe this could be something that would work that well, because we would all be there together, so. I mean, I say give it a shot and see what happens.
And maybe we have an opportunity for people to, you know, contact you or contact someone at the school board office if they do feel like they have something that needs to be in closed session, like a student discipline matter. And we could schedule those at the end, or just for that opportunity.
Do we want to figure out a date for that now, or do we want to come to that at the end? Do we have to-
We'll do it now. I feel like.
Yeah. My agenda on Again, that was some- So, I assume we want to do it before our next meeting, right?
Do you want to try for just next Wednesday? Is that work for folks, Wednesday evening?
Could we do it?
We have the building
Yeah.
committee meeting and the building forum.
Where do we want to hold it? Because we don't have that big meeting room every week either.
We might have to have a announcement on that. We might not be able to decide.
Could we have it at
High
the,
schools.
where we normally have our work session?
Or one of the other schools.
I can't do Tuesday of next week. It's a PTO meeting on Monday of next week.
Thursday of next week?
I could probably do that.
Thursday of next week?
Any day's fine with me.
Yeah, nice to be retired.
Yeah.
I could do Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, so our meeting will follow week,
No. I mean, once we did it.
We could do Monday or Tuesday
We
of
could
next
do it the
week.
Monday or Tuesday before our meeting.
I'm fine with either of those days too,
Monday or Tuesday.
the second and
Right
third.
before the meeting?
I mean,
I
that's
could do
a.
the Tuesday, probably the Tuesday, the, is that the 3rd? So, to be clear, so we're doing an open town hall forum with option to come into closed session to meet with board one-on-one? Is that's what we're?
I don't know if we want to do that that night, or do we want to just?
That's just a suggestion.
Yeah,
I mean, if
she's
you
just
all
Well, no, I'm just
don't
trying
want
to get clear on what exactly we're scheduling.
Why
Check
would we
right
go into closed session after this particular meeting for,
Ms. Lou was just suggesting if parents came that wanted to speak about a specific private issue from their child or their experience and they didn't want to
oh, okay.
have it in
I
open
guess I didn't
session.
hear you.
So we would start out with having like the 3-minute, everybody could speak, and then we would go to basically like a mingle.
Like a meet and greet.
A meet and greet mingle, where it, you might be talking to somebody, you might be talking to somebody, you might be talking, all 5.
So
or-
I have an issue with that.
I don't know, I'm
because
just trying to lay that
I
out.
have no issue talking to parents and teachers as it is right now. Like, I've talked to plenty of them and will continue to talk to plenty of them, and I follow up with them after the meetings. My issue is I need you guys to all hear what I'm hearing, because I feel like I'm sick of being gaslighted, and told like, well, you're the only one that's hearing this, or that, blowing it out of proportion, or that my expectations are too high, or stay off social media and you won't have to stress yourself out. Like, so how do we stay within Virginia open meeting guidelines so that we all hear the same stories and the same issues, but not, how do we do this and keep this meeting legal? Because I want to know that I'm hearing the same, I want you guys to hear the same things I'm hearing. Like, that's what I desperately need to have happen at this point in time. So I don't know how else to get there. Like, I do respond to my emails, and I read my emails, and I answer the phone calls even if they're, hey, I want to stay anonymous. Like, how do we do this and stay within Virginia open meeting law requirements? How do we do that? Other than, like, invite them into closed session, or, I'd be fine with, hey, if we've got a closed session coming up, right here on this agenda, anybody who's here today, come on into closed session, tell us what we need to know, and then do it again at the next meeting, and then do it again at the next meeting, and the next meeting, and just keep doing it until this is finally fixed. I'm happy to have a meeting, but I want to be very clear as to what we're walking into, because I don't know, a mingle and a meet and greet just doesn't feel like it's going to accomplish at this level of issue that we're having right now.
I
You
guess
know
I
what
thought
I'm
that
saying?
was us all here. I don't know. Maybe we're just envisioning two different things. I felt like it is people standing in front of all 5 of us at once and being able to tell us what they want us to hear. And maybe I'm not saying that it should be, maybe I'm not making it formal enough for afterwards. Like, do we need to have, then just tables that we sit, can we just sit together then afterwards?
Are we
and
legally
have this-
allowed to? Are we
It's
legally allowed
it will
to?
be a publicly advertised meeting.
Okay,
I
so
think
we're
so.
legally allowed to sit in an open public forum and call parents in one at a time? Because the comment was made that parents don't want to speak up in open meetings, so what exactly are we, I'm just
Well, she was just
confused.
giving an option for parents that don't want to do that.
If it's about a general discipline matter or personnel matter, those are things that can be talked about in closed.
But just not tonight.
well,
Or
what we
any
could
Well, I think it's
do,
on parents' preference. Some parents are, I think we want to be able to meet the parent where they're at. So if they're not comfortable emailing or talking with any of us individually, or I would say in public, obviously, because there's a million reasons why we don't want to be on camera. That would give them the opportunity to still have, in a closed session, still have all 5 of us, because maybe they don't want to email us, they want that face-to-face, but they don't want to do it in front of the public, which I totally respect. So I think we're just trying to brainstorm some ways that we can make sure we all are hearing what those concerns are. Because I agree, I'll get, and I think we're very good as a board, we do share everything that comes on email unless we are specifically asked to remain anonymous, and then with that person, we're not, obviously, we want to respect that information, so we just, but I do want to make sure I encourage people too to, if you share it with all of us, I want everybody to share it with all of us too, and, have phone calls with all of us. We will make time. If you say, hey, I don't want to email you, I don't want to go back and forth on email, but I want to have your undivided attention for, a phone call, we're going to set that up. We're going to do that. so I just want to make sure, I don't want anybody to think that that can't be done. And quite frankly, I just came from meeting with 2 people that requested to, hey, I'd like to talk and, meet with you. Absolutely. I've done that many a times, and I know we all have. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that you can reach us via email to start that conversation, and we will make sure it happens.
Well, why don't we do this? In order to, if someone calls you and says, da-da-da, and you could say, well, why don't you come and have a process where they can sign up to speak to us in closed session. So that's just the 5 of us and whoever wants to speak, whether it's a parent, a teacher, whoever, concerned citizen. And then they could come into closed session, have that discussion, and then they would leave. And if someone else wanted to come in, they set up the appointment time. We can set the time, say, okay, try to schedule it every 10 minutes or something like that, so that, and when you talk with people, you can say, hey, come and sign up to come into closed session and talk to the school board. That way, you're out of the crosshairs of people saying, well, your expectations and things you just said. It kind of gets you out of the crosshairs and gets all of us involved in solving a problem, because not one of us can come up with a solution to solve the problem. It has to come from all of us. Okay, that's what the dialogue is for. So that gets you out of the hot seat, gets you out of the crosshairs, and gets people sitting in front of us saying what they want to say. And encourage them to sign up for the next meeting, whether it's a work session or regular session, and we go into closed session and they can come in and say whatever they want to say. I'd certainly like to hear what they got to say, because,
To do it on an ongoing basis like that.
Say again?
Do that on an ongoing basis.
Yeah,
then, right?
every
Okay.
meeting, sure.
Awesome. Love that idea.
You might, at first it might be cumbersome where there's a lot of people, but after a while, it'll settle down into a normal routine. I kind of wish we had that availability with the Board of Supervisors. But that would be a way to get started. We all hear the same thing at the same time, rather than just one of us hearing what we hear and moving from there. So kind of a win-win for everybody out there. So.
Yeah, I just want to make sure too that we consult with our attorney about that, because as long as it's a student discipline matter or a personnel issue, then it's allowed. But if it is,
It could be just anything.
it can't just be.
Right,
just
we'll have to be very
legally,
clear about that.
We don't write that law.
Right.
We can't, negotiate contracts behind closed doors or any of that stuff. Those are the 2 items.
And I think that's
Personnel
what, yeah,
and student discipline
so
issues.
it's kind of a mix, we could do a mix where some of it is in public, because some of it will be just,
Right.
hey, I want to have
Right.
input on the discipline policy,
And some
but
people
there's
want to speak publicly.
nothing specific on it. So we could do like what we did before, where we had the time slots and we just kind of knew who was coming next, but we could start, the first hour and a half or something is.
And we
the
try it and
public.
see how it goes and recess if it.
If it's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot,
it
then it's
could
a
be
lot.
s-
Right,
And if it's full, then we have to just kind of change as we go with it.
Right,
How about
right.
that?
It could be somebody wants to speak at public presentations on an item that's an agenda item, or maybe a non-agenda item that's unrelated to a specific issue that they have. And then, like you say, then we just get them signed up and take them in at a certain time and listen to them. All right?
Yeah, and then the other thing that I would like to, while we're on this whole open and honest transparency thing, I think a lot of our staff relies on WCEA to, they will take their grievances and complaints to that, right? Because that's the avenue with which they're supposed to do that. But that information isn't getting to us. So I would like whatever reports WCEA is giving to Dr. Ballinger to also come to our board, because otherwise we're not aware of what the staff's issues are.
The leader of the Educational Association could come at one of our sessions and sign up to speak and say, I have these specific issues that my membership has brought up, and she can present that to us at that time.
Yeah, I don't think she should even have to sign up to speak. I think she should just, let's give her an agenda,
Maybe
a
they-
section on the agenda, where
Right.
she can just come and
I mean, that would fall,
report to us.
Maybe they can
from-
nominate someone, because I think she said in the past she doesn't love
Right.
speaking in public either, so it can be her
True,
or
and then
whoever,
they can
or they
vote,
could
yeah,
trade off.
yeah.
but that would fall under the premise of a personnel matter. So that's no problem.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes we do make it complicated.
Well, we are in
Quite
government.
long, yeah.
Okay, so what was the final decision here? Are we trying to do a separate run through first? Where we can have closed session stuff signed up, like see, or we?
Oh, I still want the people here today to be able to speak.
Well, we have a motion on the table
Right,
for that, but
right.
I'm trying to
Okay.
circle us back to
Okay.
if we're setting a date or what we're doing.
I feel like that would make sense, because I think there is a lot of interest right now, and we are trying to work out these policies. I think it would be helpful, like you're saying, to get more of that input up front. So I would think, I would vote for yes to have a special meeting before our next meeting, and then also maybe make this a regular part of our meetings in the future. That's how I would lean.
I think we were talking about what, like the Tuesday?
The Monday or the
Or
Tuesday.
so we'd be looking at October 3rd,
Mhm.
correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Just to be clear, this isn't the vote that we're taking right now.
Right. So
Not
I
bad.
think the Tuesday,
Are we
the
just
3rd
officially-
works for me.
We're just
Scheduling
like
that.
talking about our special meeting, yes.
Shouldn't have said the
Talking
word vote.
What?
I shouldn't have said the word vote.
I shouldn't have said the word vote, we're just announcing our special meeting.
Just my thought.
But
And
Tuesday,
what time are we
3rd works.
thinking?
I think at 5:30 works.
Yeah, because it can be like, people can come, they don't have to be there at 5:30, it'll be open,
Okay.
and then start closed at 7.
Sure. That'd probably be more than enough time, yeah, maybe.
It's hard to predict, because like,
It is
it's, like,
hard.
we were there for a couple of hours last time, 2 people came, like,
Right.
10 people are gonna
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so 5:30 is open, and then 7 closed? And I guess we'll just have a sign up,
Schedule the
like,
slots,
yeah, like some kind of slots there.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we'll try it, and we'll figure out what's wrong with the plan immediately, and we'll go from there. Okay?
Specified for it all over the place.
Yeah, okay.
All
All right, so we do have a motion on the floor, and that is to open up for public comment this evening. Is there any other discussion on that?
Are we, just to clarify what we're talking about, are we saying we would do just public comment, the 3-minute style that we normally do? Are we saying we would want them to invite anyone who's here to come into closed session? Are we saying both? What are we,
For tonight?
for tonight?
I mean, I think our 3-minute
I'm gonna do the 3 minutes.
pertaining to
I
the
think
policy is,
3 minutes pertaining to.
because it's on the
policy.
agenda, policy
If
agenda.
anyone wants to speak
Mhm.
privately, they'll have the option.
They would have an opportunity
Okay.
Because we're going
next
in-
week. Is that next week already?
Week after.
Week after.
Yeah, week after next, October 3rd.
Okay.
At which time we will have talked to our lawyer and make sure
That, what we're doing is legal, right?
we're in the good to do
Contingent
it.
upon,
Right, she might shut us down, obviously.
but we're not voting on that.
We're not
We're
voting.
voting on tonight.
So we're voting on right now allowing 3 minutes.
3 minutes tonight.
From
From anyone here
Parents.
to speak about any of the policies.
that,
Discussion.
yes, 3 minutes to make statements about what we're about to discuss with regard to the policies.
So just to be clear, so that I get it straight, a parent or a person in the audience could come up and address the discipline policy that we're getting ready to take care of,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
the work, the
Gotcha.
work session.
Well, we've got a few. We've got discipline, we've got classroom video surveillance, we've got communication with families, student conduct, student drug use consequences.
Yeah.
Am I missing any?
Goals for school community relations, public information program, threat assessment,
There's a whole sheet.
substance abuse, yeah. There's a whole host of policies and articles that run the gamut.
Okay, well, I'm gonna take roll call on that. Ms. Lowe,
Aye.
Ms. Salins,
Aye.
Dr. Funk,
Aye.
Mr. Rinaldi.
All right.
I'm also an aye. Okay, so,
Thank you guys for hearing me on this.
Well, I think the discussion was good on what to do in the future. You know, it is for the benefit of the school system and the people involved with the school system, both personnel, students, and parents. That's what we're about, so.
okay, with that being said, I'm not gonna read my big old long thing. We're just gonna know that we're gonna do 3 minutes, and we'll just have each person, like, if you wanna just sit at this table here and speak, that would be perfect. Just let us know who you are, and I'll start this timer up here. Anybody
Who wants to go first?
All that, nobody wants to speak.
Somebody wants to speak.
The first person gets a prize. There you go.
Where do you want me?
Wherever you want to be. If you want to be in one of these chairs, that's perfect.
I didn't come as prepared as last time, but thank you for giving me the opportunity. My name is Virginia Cram. I spoke at the last meeting on September 6th. My main question would be, you've had almost 2 weeks. You have had 2 weeks of this information. What has been done?
See, this is why, I know, this is why it's difficult in public comment. So we don't meet as a board except when we met publicly. And so basically, for the past 2 weeks, it's been reach out to our attorney, sort of have them look through what these policies are that we have in place, try to give us feedback, and then try to get us prepared for our discussion tonight moving forward. You know, on the back end of it, you know, I think some of us have visited Skyline Middle School. We've had separate conversations with teachers and administrators just to try to get a better background information, a little bit more from that end as well.
Okay.
But to be quite honest with you, I mean, this is where our discussion is going to happen, because we can't have that discussion outside of the public.
For sure. Am I allowed to ask you guys questions? I just wanted to know if the 5 of you were made aware of what happened to Aiden before I spoke at last meeting. Ms.
We
Lowe?
can't talk about any student discipline.
No, I asked if you were
I
made
think you want to
aware
know if we
of what
were,
happened to
Or any-
Aiden before I went and spoke. You can talk about my child.
Yeah.
You can. I'm talking about him. Were you made aware of what happened to Aiden before I spoke at the meeting?
the answer for me is yes, I was told about it. I was told about it. I didn't see the video until later.
Thank you for your
So-
honesty. You were made aware? Were the details that I explained to the 5 of you, did they match the details that you
Yeah.
were told before
Yeah.
the meeting?
I learned about it on social media,
Okay,
and then I received an email from just a random person
Okay.
making us aware.
okay,
And yeah, no,
okay.
your details were the first.
Okay, and whose job is it to tell the 5 of you what
Communication
happened?
falls on the superintendent.
Okay, so were you-
That being said, it's not the role of the board to mete out discipline, and in fact, we're supposed to be able to hear appeals of discipline, and so,
That does not mean that we are required to remain ignorant.
no, it doesn't. But it also doesn't mean that we're supposed to be notified of discipline matters either.
Thank you, Ms. Graham.
Thank you for your honesty.
Had your lawyer heard back from our lawyer with that information you requested?
I believe the only thing my attorney has heard back to date is to not contact you guys directly, but I don't believe any answers have actually been relayed to actually either attorney now, thus far. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening?
Don't be scared. Don't be helpful.
Hi, I'm Sharon Shannon. I'm Aiden's grandmother. My concern with this whole situation is that there's been questions asked and no questions answered. I understand that there's another person involved that you cannot give me his name, whatever, but I need to know what's being done at this school with this principal, with the discipline in this school. My grandson cannot come back here. I've sent every single one of you, I believe, I don't know your names, I've sent you all questions. I got one answer. And it was not an answer. It was basically a politician's answer. I want to know answers, and it seems like you guys can't or will not give them to me. Where does he go from here? Does he have to go back to this place in 2-4 weeks? No. But where does he go? Where is his education going from here? How does he come back here? How does his brother come here? He doesn't. What are we doing? What is Warren County doing for kids? It starts in elementary. It starts at home. You can't help that. But it goes to elementary. From elementary, it's middle. This is where all the problems seem to come from. Why does it take a child being brutally beaten to get attention? Why?
And still no
He's
accountability.
12. He's 12. I want answers, and I don't want bureaucratic BS. I want you all to tell me what you're doing to get rid of this principal, to find out how you control your kids here. Okay, that's all.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening?
I get no answers. There's no answers. I mean, you've had has it been 2 weeks? I got an email, a BS email.
I'm Melanie, I'm who called you. And I came and visited the school and I saw the behavior, and quite frankly, I think prisons probably have better behavior. I would love to be able to read through the policy book with you and tell you exactly how to come after us, quite frankly. I'll just not beat around that bush. Like, you should be able to be transferring your child. Your child has a legal right to an education, a safe education. Your child should not have to come back in here. I would have hoped that information would have been provided to you by the staff who's supposed to be providing that to you. Long story short, I'm one board member, and until I have a board majority, I don't know what else to do. My hands are so tied right now that it is driving me nuts.
So what about the rest of you?
Have you requested that the child be enrolled in the Warren County Middle School?
I have.
Have you?
I have.
Okay, so then I would think that the administration process would definitely start, and my hope would be they would honor your request. So in that regard, maybe the system is working for the transfer of your son and your grandson. As far as some of the other questions you've asked, I'll go out on a limb here. There has been administrators from the central office coming to this building, walking around and observing and helping out to get this squared away. We brought a former principal in here to also assist with that. I know I spent half a day in here the other day, and I plan on coming in here Friday in the morning. I came in the afternoon before, okay? What I saw was basically middle school behavior in this building. I saw running in the hallway, and it was corrected by a teacher standing outside the doorway. So there was coverage in the hallways. I taught middle school for 9 years, and I taught a long time ago in the 70s for 3 years at an intermediate school. And what I saw when I was here, except for a problem that I noticed in PE, I saw pretty good coverage in the hallway. Typical kids in the lunchroom, a little bit of handsiness with each other, same thing they would do at the food court in the mall. And they were corrected. I saw an assistant principal go up there and correct a couple of kids in the lunchroom. Now, I can't speak to what happened before I came here, but that's what I saw. Typical middle school behavior. I walked into every bathroom. There was nothing going on in there. No kids hanging out. So that's what I saw in a half a day. So I don't know if that makes any difference to you or not, but that's what it was. I didn't see any horseplay in PE, okay? I saw some non-participation in PE, which I didn't care for. I'm a former PE teacher. So with all that being said, I didn't see kids sneaking under the bleachers. I looked under the bleachers. I didn't see anything going on there. So my impression was, yeah, there's a few things that need to be tightened up. I watched the video when your grandson and your son got hit in that PE class. I watched that video, and I've spoken to different people about that video. So I think the school system is trying to get this building squared away. The principal is receptive to the criticisms that I gave him. So I don't know what else to say about that. I know you are very distraught about the whole situation. If that had been my son or grandson, I think I might have taken it a little bit further than what you guys have taken it. So, you know, that's my concern.
I must admit, I have not seen the video. Obviously, it's not made for public. My daughter, even if it is public, would not let me see it because it would upset me so much from my understanding. You gotta start from the top here. He's gotta go. I don't know what kind of rules and regulations you have to adhere to him being here. Why you can't walk in his office and say, this is your last day? But that's where it needs to start.
I'm not going to address that issue because that is an issue for the school administration to do, not school board members, okay? The only person that we hire and fire is the superintendent.
So who is it that I would contact about getting rid of him?
The superintendent.
Your bureaucratic answer, sir.
Okay. Oh, I've already addressed it. And I didn't get, at no point in my return email did you say anything about Mr. Johnston. So.
A child's jaw was broken under his watch and 911 was not called. Something's wrong. Period. That is automatic loss of job. If you cannot keep children safe, get out.
Yeah.
Get out. Don't run school.
So I'm going to ask that we sort of go to our topics at hand, because as a school board, it is our job to set policy. It's to make sure that these policies are enforced. It is our job to make sure that the policies are clear. That is what we can do as a school board. As Mr. Rinaldi already said, I've been here only 3 hours in the school myself to try to see. The best that I can do is continue to come as frequently as I can, but I can also say that all eyes are on Skyline Middle School right now. Everyone is painfully aware of the concerns that have been brought up here, and so from a board standpoint, our job now is to, one, make sure that our policies are appropriate, are the policies that we need, and then from there we need to make sure that they're enforced, because the policies are not going to be useful in having if we're not going to follow them. So looking at, I mean, I don't know if we just want to kind of go from the beginning. Basically, like I said, after our last meeting, we identified a couple of different areas that we wanted to talk about at this retreat tonight. One was what our communication is going to be like out to our community members, out to our students, out to our parents. Since that last meeting, I think everybody in Warren County is very aware that we've been getting a lot of updates from each of our schools every day. They've been sending out if they've found vapes, if they've found THC vapes, if there's been a threat of any kind. All of that's been sent out to parents. I followed up with our attorney basically afterwards to have her sort of start reviewing and looking at these policies. And really her only comment to us on the communications policy is that we have to have a communications policy. So our current policy is in compliance. It's really up to the board to sort of define what communications we want out from the school. So the question that I've been getting over the past 2 weeks is, as something happens at a school, well, is this something that we have to send a notification out? Because now there's kind of a line of, okay, well, was this a single incident that's not going to impact any other student? Does that notification need to go out? Or is this an incident that is going to impact everyone in the school community or a larger population of the school community, and then that gets sent out as a notification? So we need to.
I think the policy for individual matters, like what this grandmother and parent went through, I think there a phone call from the school should be made, and I think that should be pretty rigid in the policy for an individual situation. For
Just the parent, to only the parent.
Huh?
To only the parent of that
Yes,
child?
yeah, you don't send it out to people that aren't
Why? Because
interested in
the
that.
children that watched that were pretty traumatized too.
I think the initial thing should be the parent should be notified. Then, after the parent has the first notification, then something could be sent out from the school in general to everyone. We had an incident today, this happened, okay, without mentioning the name. So yeah, twofold, but the parent should be notified first, okay? And that's what you're saying, and you're 100% correct, because she didn't get that call first. Then the second part of that is what to do with that child if he's severely injured, like this lady's child was, and you have an emergency care card, and you put that with the kid, put him on the ambulance, send him to the hospital, and notify the parent, okay, the school nurse and your child was sent to this hospital, and take it from there. That way the parent doesn't have to come here and then go there. The whole thing was done wrong. The other thing to mention is we've talked about this, but we had to cut this funding for a communications manager, because it's not only things that happen in the school, it's snow days, early closings, things like this. A communications manager would really help out, and I think we need to perhaps take a look at that.
Communications managers wanted, because you guys want to spin things and have somebody provide answers that will not make parents upset. The communication, an effective superintendent communicates timely and relevant information. There's an entire section from the Virginia Department of Education about the importance of communication, and that it's the superintendent's job. So if we're going to pay a communications director, let's take it out of his salary.
Well, I think, I agree with you on a lot of things, but I'll disagree with you on this one. We are running I don't want to say a skeleton crew, but our assistant superintendents are busy people. When we went through COVID, it was unreal the amount of time that was going on. A superintendent needs to be in the buildings, talking to principals, et cetera, and engaging with teachers. Where you get bogged down on some of the paperwork that's involved in a school system, you can attest to that, and then all of a sudden, the day is almost over. So we keep piling on stuff with no relief. For example, one of our assistant superintendents is involved, spends I don't know how many hours on FOIA requests. And some of these FOIA requests are pretty legitimate and some are not. But he still has to spend that time. That takes him away from duties that he could be doing to help support the superintendent. Fauquier County superintendent would put out a broadcast once a week, a video that you could get on there and look at. How many assistant superintendents does he have compared to Warren County? So a communications manager could take up some of the burden on the superintendent so that the superintendent can be more involved in the system than tied up on paperwork, and his assistants would be freed up a little bit to support him. That's the way I look at it.
But who's sending out all the notices we're getting right now? It's coming from principals, right? It's coming from principals, right? It's not coming from him. It's not coming from an assistant superintendent. Our assistant superintendents are doing a great job, trying their best. I mean, you guys are talking about hiring, before you're saying like an $80,000 a year person who is going to essentially do PR for the school system. I say we fix the actual problem instead of trying to figure out how to spin it. So, I mean, these simple form letter emails that the alerts that go out, like we had this many drug seizures at such and such high school today. We had a fight at this school today, because they're vague. They have to be vague. You can't say this child did this thing and send it out. It's literally as simple as copy, paste, send. So,
It's either got to come directly from the principal of the school for each item that happens in that building. He's the building manager. I saw that today from Chris Johnson over at Warren County Middle School on the lockdown that he had. He put out a statement about a suspicious person nearby, the lockdown, and then he put out another that the lockdown was over. Okay? A couple of elementary schools did the same thing. But that should be happening from all schools.
I got one from
Madam
every
Chair,
single school.
can I just say, I have some comments on this, and I think this is great discussion, but I'm not sure that we gave an opportunity for everybody here who wanted to speak. Did we want to see if anybody else wants to speak before we?
Oh, yeah, I thought I did.
Yeah, I thought you did.
Did we?
I was really hoping some staff members
I asked a couple
might
times.
speak, because I don't know, I saw very different things when I was here. I didn't see the principal at all. I didn't see, other than going into her office, I didn't see the assistant principal at all. I saw teachers trying their very, very best to get what I will not consider as normal middle school behavior under control. And I mean, I coached inside of middle schools, and I have a middle schooler. I don't see a teacher being told that a student is going to F her up, and then a whole host of other threats, and then being just sent back to class. I didn't find that to be acceptable. I still didn't see the principal during any of that. The random slapping, cussing, teachers, the teachers were absolutely out in the halls doing their best, telling kids not to do this, not to do that. I saw a lot of eye rolls. I saw a lot of, no. I saw a lot of, come back here, to try to get a name, and they just keep on going.
I'll be honest with you, Melanie. I didn't see any of that. And like I say,
And so that is what I deal with all the time. Just
I'm not
I
trying to
mean,
be
I
critical.
understand
He's
Hold
lying
on.
because I was here for 3 hours too.
Right,
didn't see
I
that.
know, obviously, like, I'm just clearly wrong in making up all of this.
I don't
so-
think anybody's saying you're wrong, she's just
No, you
saying he
guys tell
didn't
me I'm
see
wrong all
that.
the time. I get gaslit all the time on the behavior
so-
here. The things that are happening would not be happening. Like, is the staff just not comfortable telling you guys these things? What is going on here?
So did we make it clear, is there anybody else that wants to
I would
speak?
love
I just
for
want to
staff
make sure we
back me up right now.
like 1, 2, 3, ding, ding, ding.
Can we tell the staff
We've
members
said it.
that they will not be fired or retaliated
Multiple-
against if they're willing to speak? Because quite frankly, we've got a lot of terrified teachers, and we are gonna find ourselves, we have 18 teachers ready to walk out the door, FYI, in this school, 18,
Well,
right?
yeah, I want to make that very clear as well. No staff member should ever be retaliated on or, any kind of reprimand for voicing your opinion, with whomever, that just is what should not ever happen. So if you want to talk to us privately, you want to talk to us individually, you want to talk to us right now, we don't ever want that. I mean, we all agree 100%. We don't want that to happen ever, and it should not ever occur. But I just want to make it clear, no one else wants to speak, correct? Like 1, 2, 3. I see some people looking at each other. I don't want to, I want you to speak if you want to.
I can second her opinion that we need assistance in the school and that.
Would you mind just 3?
I really don't want to.
Okay, that's fine, I appreciate it. You can share from there.
But I second that.
Okay.
I'll read you some of the things that I've sent. Children mimicking oral sex, children making sex noises, children falsely accusing adults of inappropriate behaviors, they get out of getting in trouble, children being a disruption verbally and physically within the classroom and not being removed, children being a disruption physically and verbally in the hallway. I saw that, kids walking through the hallway, smacking each other on the back of the head. No wonder we have fights that escalate. No wonder we have an absenteeism problem. I had a migraine after 3 hours. Messes being made and not being required to clean them up without consequence, outright belligerence, screaming, disrespect to teachers and staff, extension time not being utilized appropriately, saw that one too. Cannot get substitutes that are willing to return to our building, cannot get janitors who are working our building. We cannot get consistent and clear leadership from our administration. We've got some faculty member issues, some issues with having to give up planning time because of not being able to staff the building, bullying and harassment of the teaching staff. Yes, you heard that right. It's bullying and harassment of the teaching staff. Sexual harassment of both male and female teachers by the students going unaddressed. An incident where a student pulled a clump of hair out of a teacher's head and then absolutely humiliated her in front of the entire class. And in response, the administration's reaction was to simply tell the teacher to call home. Threats made to teachers. I saw that one firsthand. You've got a bunch of teachers ready to prepare their resignations. Let's see what else. I've got an entire file full of this, and I guess somehow I'm the only person that sees this. Did you guys walk around with the principal or without the principal?
Without.
Then I guess magic happened between last week and this week.
I have not been
so we're gonna go
this
again.
recently. I was here last year, so I haven't had the opportunity with my schedule to be here recently. I am going to try to make that happen. It's a little bit challenging for me during the day.
Science class,
But
I finally
am
got up
having
and
that.
started handing out paper towels because the children were taking their science experiment, vinegar and baking soda. Poor teacher. I genuinely feel for him. Half the class was on their phones and playing video games.
We went into
one
the
little
same
boy
classroom.
Had his hand in between a girl's legs in the classroom. That was fun to watch. Then they were dumping baking soda and vinegar onto, making it overflow. They're flinging it at each other. The teacher's trying to get one of the girls to listen. She was wearing nothing but a sports bra, by the way. And she wouldn't listen. She wouldn't move seats because she was being disruptive. So I just started handing out paper towels. Please clean it up. Please clean it up. Because there was not, you can't have, kids can't learn in that environment. They
Melanie,
can't learn in that environment.
We went into the same classroom. In fact, that teacher came out while we were in the hallway the classes had just changed. And we were gonna walk down to an English class, 221, okay? And the teacher came out from the lab, a guy, right? Middle-aged guy. He came out and invited us in. And we went in there and we saw the vinegar baking soda and what they were doing. And to be honest with you,
No, they were doing gummy bear osmosis.
they were what?
Doing gummy bear
Yeah,
osmosis.
so we didn't see anything what you saw. And I'm not saying it didn't happen, and I don't think you should say that we overlooked anything. So in that regard, we went into an English class, and the teacher had a project for them to do. It was, they had to write their impression of what the little story was that they had gone over. There was one kid that was asleep at his desk. That's the only thing that I saw there. We were in that classroom for about 15 minutes. So, I mean, you know, if I saw something.
If my one visit made such an impact that it just magically fixed the whole school by the following week, then
I doubt if anybody could fix the school in one day. You came in on a Wednesday, kids were out of school on Thursday and Friday, we came in on Tuesday.
Yeah,
So,
You all did that together?
yeah, we were
We
together.
got there.
So you
Yeah,
guys
I
were
was
together,
there.
okay,
I was
so you
there
guys were
before.
together, that's, okay.
Well, what's wrong with
What does
that?
that mean?
Nothing, I'm just, clearly I make up things, and we've got teaching staff that is just thrilled with working here right now. And the teachers must feel supported, and I saw teachers trying their
So can I stop you for a
absolute best.
second? You just said you make up things. None of us have said to you, you make up things. I've never said that to you. So
Okay.
I do take offense that you are saying you make up things.
I
It's not
think
us.
everybody watching this video will understand and get a very clear picture of how I get treated. I think that would be very clear.
Well, it's not about you either, because this is how Rebecca, she actually has something to say.
Without being on video, you came on a purely calm day, and that same day, so many inappropriate questions that I don't want to voice were asked. Were you told the school board was coming? Was the faculty told that they were coming?
I didn't say when I was coming. It's just I cleared my work schedule to be able to come that afternoon.
It was a student that asked the inappropriate questions, I just want to clarify for everybody up here, but it wasn't one of you guys, it was
Right.
students.
And I'm not saying that you haven't, your experience wasn't real. No one is saying that.
It definitely feels that way, and so I have to say that I sympathize with how the teachers feel right now, because I imagine they get the exact same response when they are going to administration saying, this child is, we have a teacher who has a child that keeps grabbing and slapping the butt. If I, as a school board member who does not have a job on the line, I'm not gonna get fired by the administration. If I feel this gaslit, how do you think they feel? They feel desperate. I mean, you understand, I walked past one classroom and the teacher was literally crying in the middle of class. This is not okay, and until we are willing to identify and express and admit how not okay this is, we have no hope in fixing this.
Well, everything that you've told us, I do not think a teacher or a student should go through. If you've got 90% of your students who are behaving correctly in a hallway, and you get 10% that aren't, then those 10% need to be dealt with. And I'm not making excuses for them, but if a teacher's hair is pulled out, okay, that's a major deal. And I want to follow up on that.
Survival mode.
Pardon me?
She said we're all in survival mode.
I can see that.
I had a teacher tell me, I hate every single day of my life. That is not okay. We need to have administration supporting these teachers, taking these students who are bullying and abusing not only each other, but the adults, And the administration needs to be backing up these teachers. I know in my household, if I have to call my husband at work, he's going to back me up when it comes time to discipline our children. The administrators need to be visible, they need to be present, they need to be backing up these teachers. And after a student tells a teacher that he is going to F her up, and there was a whole lot more said than just that, the parent should be called to come take the child home.
I would agree with that.
But that's not what happened. That's not what happened. That child went down to the office and I followed behind. It's not my place to be the one to do anything, to intervene. But I followed him down the hallway, listening to him talk about various ways that he was going to F this teacher up. And he walked into the office. I thought for sure that at this point, like, we were gonna have an SRO principal, all right, this is gonna be dealt with. No, not at all. A woman about my size, younger than I was, came out and said, okay, well, I'll take you on a walk. I mean, God bless her. I was worried about her safety and looked around at every other adult in the office and was like, is she gonna be okay? Like, what is happening right now? And they said, oh, she's just gonna take him on a lap and then take him back to class. I said, she's gonna take him back to class? He stood in here, he's saying he's gonna hurt the teacher. And just send this child back to class? Who in their right mind? I'm not okay with that.
Well, I'm not okay with that either.
I know some people have sent letters to leave these reasons for the others because they didn't witness.
I've sent all the letters to all the board members. So yeah, well, and then the ones that we've gotten over, the comments here and there. Yeah, so I
The one
read
from today, I
some of the
haven't had the
highlights.
opportunity to look through yet, I don't have it.
Yeah. So we would probably be here for over an hour if I were to read all of the pages. I'll read them. I'll absolutely read them.
I mean, what I can do and say I will do as a board member is continue to go to Skyline Middle School as frequently as I can.
But see, we pay people that are supposed to be doing this.
Right. Well, we have to have this discussion of, okay, where is the drop here then with.
Right, and I think for each incident, and that's not necessarily something we can get to the bottom of today, but for each incident, I think it would be helpful to know, did the teacher write the student up? If so, what happened to that write-up? Did anyone talk to the student? If so, who was it? What did they do? I mean, I would want to know, because then we'll know where the ball was dropped. If the student never got written up, and I'm not saying this is the case, but if the student never got written up, then I'm not sure how the administration would be able to act on it. If the student was written up and nothing happened, that's a different situation. I mean, and any of these situations is bad. I mean, what you're describing is bad and wrong and needs to be addressed. But from our point of view, knowing how to address it, details like that matter, and that's not something that I think we can figure out among ourselves. I think that's something that needs to have a deeper conversation and that someone needs to follow up on and look into. I will say that I also visited Skyline Middle School. I believe what you're saying, Melanie. I believe that you saw those things that you're saying you saw. You have forwarded the letters to us, which I appreciate. I would echo other comments that I do think it's helpful if parents and teachers are comfortable notifying all of us. I think that's very helpful so that we're all hearing the same thing. I will say that today I saw something similar to what you're describing in terms of I saw two young men towards the end of the day that were being very disrespectful to staff. They were in the hallways when they weren't supposed to be. They were mad about getting tardy slips and mad about being asked to go back to class, and a woman took them back to class even though they were being disrespectful. So, I mean, again, my question is, does that woman feel that that was out of line? And if so, did she write them up? Does she feel she even can write them up? I don't know the answer to that. I know that they got tardy slips for being tardy, but that's not the only poor behavior they had. So yes, that sparks questions for me. Like, what are the next steps? Is there more that I'm not seeing? Should there be more that I'm not seeing? I do want to share a couple of kind of like high-level thoughts. From my visit today, I talked to about 10 teachers. I talked to about 5 other people that were not teachers, so either administrators, office staff, etc. A couple of themes that I saw was that teachers have seen improvement since the start of the year. My guess would be, since all eyes are on Skyline Middle School, perhaps some of that has even been since our last meeting. And that could account for why maybe I saw things different than the things that you saw maybe in that week that has gone by. I did see administrators who told me that today was the second day that they were handling tardy passes in a different way and recording those differently. And the feedback that I received from that was that there were fewer people in the halls today than there had been last week. So I think if I take that at face value, I think I saw fewer people in the halls than what you saw. I think it was probably worse when you were there than what I saw. I didn't see a whole lot of that, aside from the incident that I just described. There were a few people in the halls when the bell rang, but not chaos, and most of them were hurrying to class. They went and got their passes. So I had heard that from more than one person, that they had seen an improvement since the start of the school year. A few people had mentioned to me that they had seen an improvement since last year, and that they had seen more consistency in discipline this year compared to last year. I also heard that there maybe is more to go with that there could be more consistency among different administrators, that there could be more consistency among teachers and expectations on teachers, because no teacher wants to feel like they're the only one enforcing this, or I'm the only one that writes people up and I'm the bad guy. So I heard that too, that maybe there could be more to go, but I heard that we are moving in the right direction from the people that I spoke with. I heard good feedback about Ms. Stone, that faculty, or the teachers here had felt supported by her. I heard a few people say that. The advisory period, I had heard positive things about the schedule. Teachers that like the shorter class periods, but I did hear the same thing about advisory, that some of them are a little unsure what to do. It's the longest period of the day. It's a new thing for them. I think that sounds like one of the growing pains, so that was something that I was thinking I would report to Dr. Ballinger and to Heather Bragg and see if they could get some additional support for teachers so that they know what to do during that period, how to make use of it, what the intention are. Maybe they can share lesson plans, but it sounds like maybe that is one of the growing pains of the new schedule. And then I also heard partnering with families. It sounds like a lot of times the families do partner with the school, and then I heard teachers say that on those occasions where they don't feel their support when they call home, that can be very demoralizing for the teachers, understandably. I think that's a little bit harder. Obviously, we're not going to make families do anything different except to ask them to participate. And as I said, I think a lot of the families are participating and are partnering with us. But maybe that's another area that administration can look at and can brainstorm ways to deal with those times when a teacher calls home and the family isn't on the same page with them. So those are some of the things I heard. I didn't see a perfect school today. I'm not sure such a thing exists. I think there are still areas, as I mentioned, that could be improved. But I got the impression of a group of people who are trying to improve and trying to do better. I do think that the administration, including Mr. Johnston, is willing to do better. He was asking, like, what did you hear? Is there something I can do? I think that he's invested in making that. So that was my impression from visiting today.
See, I didn't see him the entire time I was here, and I noticed he's not here tonight either. So, and then the other thing that I observed that I think needs to definitely be addressed is the PE situation. So the PE classes that I observed, it was 4 classes combined into one, and I will preface this by saying, God love those PE teachers, they tried their best, but they are dealing with a losing battle on this. So I was looking through the gym door and I'm noticing, okay, we've got like half the class running. They're doing shuttle run. And then off to the sides, we've got like all these kids who are just like laying around on their phones behind the bleachers, just, you know, doing whatever. And so when I went in and talked to the PE teacher, because I thought, for sure, like they're just sitting here waiting for their turn, and then they would switch, but there was never like a switch that happened. So it was just half the kids sitting around doing absolutely nothing. And so I talked to the PE teachers, and they said, well, those are the kids who are just not participating. They're just choosing not to participate. They're just sitting out. And I thought, well, that's weird. Why would they just be allowed to lay around, take a nap, play on their phone, climb behind the bleachers, do God knows what behind the bleachers? And they said, well, administration said we can't make them, and we can't call the parents, we can't do anything, so it's just, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know, that's not the kind of coach or PE teacher that I was. Like, if you don't wanna participate, get up, go to the office, we'll call mom and dad. You don't wanna play shuttle run? Fine, sit down and you can write me a little paper about shuttle run. Do something, but we're paying PE teachers to instruct PE, and we are leaving children to do whatever they want to do during that time period. And apparently administration has given the directive of, like, that's just what we're supposed to do, just let the kids do whatever they want to do. And I can't help but wonder, is that environment what led to the injury of a student?
Yeah, you said that.
I think it is.
I mean, I feel the same way, that they need to be, if they're not gonna participate and we can't make them do whatever sport they're supposed to be doing, then they need to be
phones
working
out.
on us with phones
With phones out.
Then
Our
they need to
phone
be
policy is
doing
a
an
joke.
assignment.
Our phone policy is a joke. Nobody's listening to it. These kids are walking around, and it's not the teacher's fault. Like, I wanna make sure everybody hears that loud and clear. This is not the staff's, the teacher's fault. They have nobody backing them up.
I do want to say in the gym class that I observed today, they had the bleachers closed, which again, maybe that's something different, but there were no kids able to sit on or be behind the bleachers.
Can we
because
take
they're
a little
closed.
field trip down to the gym right now? Because I will show you exactly. That was literally when I walked in this room, the first thing I did before I walked in this room, because I knew that was what was gonna be said. Let's all take a trip down. No.
We can look later, but I'm just saying maybe that.
Everybody
Saturday,
check
I
in the
think,
gym
right
before you
there.
leave.
Again, I'm not
and
saying you
can
didn't see what you saw.
Oh, I
I'm
definitely
saying-
saw what I saw.
Right, I
Yeah.
believe you. I'm saying maybe that is one thing that has been changed to try to
No, it's
address
not.
this.
No, it's, you can, like, seriously, everybody in this room, walk down to the gym and peek behind the bleachers. They are 100%, I watched it happening. What if
So
a
you're saying
child,
they're not blocked off? I'm sorry, I was just not clarify.
that you can, if you walk down to the gym, which is like literally right across the hallway, walk in there, go to the bleachers, and actually, why don't you do it and come back in and report back to us real quick. You'll see, you can go right behind you go behind the bleachers. They're all pushed back, but there's enough space for the kids to get behind
That's
there.
right, that's what I didn't
And
understand.
so-
So they're pushed back, but kids can still.
Kids were
There's like a
There's a
hole
behind
where they
there.
stop.
Gotcha.
So
So they're not walkable, like to sit on.
No, they're
They're
they're-
just sitting in the bleachers.
No, they're not sitting there. The bleachers are pushed back, and they are going behind the wall of the bleachers to where there's like almost like a cave back there.
I 100%
So,
checked, because
If we've had overdoses, right? If a kid went back there and vaped and overdosed, who's finding them? How long is it gonna take to find them?
Did you actually see kids behind there though?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Yes. And the gym teachers were trying their absolute best. It was heartbreaking to watch. So I guess really, like, the long and short of it is it doesn't matter what policies we even put in place, because they're just, if we don't have administrators willing to carry out following them and enforcing them, I mean, we've got the phone policy, right? That's not being enforced.
What is our role? Is our role to say, we don't like what's happening, so let's give up? Or is our role to say,
No, our
let's
role-
identify some issues and say what our expectations are and what we want to happen, and then follow up in a few weeks and look again and see, are these expectations being met or not?
So by definition, a school board's role, our one and only job, per state law, our job is to direct the superintendent. And the superintendent is to then carry out what he is directed to do. If that is to direct the principals that you better get on this, then that's what needs to happen. If that means that a principal needs to not be a principal anymore, then that is what needs to happen. Our sole job is to direct the superintendent, evaluate him, hire and fire him. That's our job.
Right, the policies.
The policies are our job. Policies.
Well, yes, writing the policies, right, but I can't go walk into a school and say, hey, phone policy, I have no discipline, I can't
Right.
discipline
Right.
children. I can observe and come back and say what I'm observing, and.
But I'm saying, let's do something with
Let's
that.
say, hey.
Let's say these are the
I saw the
issues.
phones out at the gym as well. The girls were sitting, because the boys were doing sharks and minnows, the girls were sitting on the bleachers, there were phones out. Okay, well then let's talk about that, and let's make sure that Dr. Ballinger is going back to the admin at Valley Middle, and let's have that conversation of, hey, this is a policy we expect to be enforced, that's why we spent a lot of time putting it together. We spent a lot of time talking about it, so we need to see the phones put away. And so have a parent come pick the phone up, or do some of those things. I know you said that parent involvement is lacking sometimes. Well, maybe we need to start having parents have to come pick up their kid, or sit with their kid in school suspension, or spend the day in the class. I like some of those ideas that the teachers sent in, like doing a reverse suspension where a parent has to come and hang out for the day. Let's see what it's about. Make it so that they are more involved and it's not just a free day. If I'm having to come for my daughter and sit with her and I miss a day of work or miss a day of whatever to have to sit here because she can't behave well, that's gonna be a serious issue in our house. So maybe we just need to involve some of the parents.
I'm pretty sure I've had that discussion with my hat on as an administrator, at some point, that with parents that, hey, we can talk about, if you'd like to come join, I'm pretty sure at some point in my career I've had that discussion.
The other thing I keep hearing over and over is just that there are not enough people in the building, enough adults in the building. So, is there a group of parents that would be willing to just
It's strategically
able to-
placed.
Yeah,
Like just
walking
having
around,
people out, we've got to be
and-
very specific about where are their spots, where are those hot spots? And as simple as that sounds, it's very, very important that, knowing that, okay, if you're here and you're here, I need to move you maybe down here because you guys are within an arm's length, you can see this, but I need you to move and walk down here. And then, we can't assume that people are just gonna know where to go, so we need to make sure that's strategically, in place.
And I do want to say with that, and I know you've been saying you don't think this is a teacher's fault, and I agree. But when I first heard that there were talk about issues with the hallway of students not getting into class, my first thought as a former educator is, well, those teachers need to be standing in those doorways
They
and
were.
telling them to go along the class.
They
Yeah,
did.
I just want to say, I saw that today. Every single doorway had a teacher in it, and it is very important and it is very helpful. They were telling them, hurry up to class, you're gonna be late. Like, they were absolutely out there participating in that. And so I just want to mention that, because if anybody else is hearing there's problems in the hallways, oh, maybe the teachers aren't doing what they need to be. That's not what I observed. I observed teachers out there, they were watching the kids in their class, their kids had something else to work on, they knew what they had to do to get started. That's everything is textbook how it should be, and that's what I saw the teachers doing.
I saw the same thing, and that was yesterday.
And I think one of the other things we discussed was.
Does that say it's perfect, or
Saying
nothing's
that,
changed? I'm just saying that particular,
no,
that was my
it's-
first thought, and I thought it was
I
that
love the
purposely
same thing
wrong.
too, and there's just really, the students were not hustling, but it was not because nobody was watching them.
With the bullying situation that we've got going on, I want to make sure that there is some sort of a report form that is filled out and documented, and that parents know that their rights are to be told about it and to have it documented. Because what I'm hearing repeatedly is that there's a complaint about bullying, and then something happens and there's the fight, and then it's after the fact, oh, well, no, there was no bullying problem, there's nothing documented. Well, why are parents not being given copies of that right then and there on the spot? Like, that should be the norm. Parents should be expecting, my child reported bullying,
Is it up to each school to use a different form or process, or is there a blanket form?
I don't think there's.
Well, we got that information on the way to link it to their Chromebooks too, the form, which seems like the easiest way since every kid has a Chromebook and access. I like that idea. So they can just do it right there. I know the only thing we did so far was just that tab on our website, which parents and community members can use. Students good if they knew
To
about it. but
report
if-
it.
Right.
Like if a
Right.
parent calls, the principal at Skyline Middle School and a parent calls the principal at AS Rhodes, those procedures should be the same.
They're not.
And the documentation should be the same. Because, that way each parent knows that their concern is going to be addressed in that same manner and fashion.
Every student does not get a Chromebook here. That access is not available to everybody.
And not all parents look it up.
Aiden didn't get a Chromebook on homebound for over a week and a half, so not every student gets a Chromebook here.
My understanding is they're using class sets here at Skyline Middle School.
And some of them are embarrassed to ask for the Chromebook in order to fill out that counselor form.
So they don't sit down and just automatically have a Chromebook.
Not always.
And so if we have all textbooks online, how are they supposed to study at home if they don't have a Chromebook to take home? We don't study at home. Okay.
My child has had study guides come home for some classes, and some of her teachers have emailed the study guides out to us as
But
parents
not
as
from
well.
the school?
Yeah,
From
the
the
school, yeah, from the
Okay.
school. So that's a way that some teachers have addressed that.
Do you have to use your own computer at home then to do that? Or she has a Chromebook?
Well, typically, the way this has worked with her classes is she's gotten a paper copy of the study guide in class that she has to carry around. Like I saw a packet passed out today in a math class that students have this study guide that they're gonna carry around. And then in my experience with my child, parents were also emailed that same packet. So if she were to lose it, or just if I wanna see it and follow along, that was how that worked. Now, I don't know, I have no idea if that was suggested by the administration or that just happened to be what this particular teacher decided to do, but that was,
But you'd have to have your
One
own
experience.
computer to look at it because she doesn't have a Chromebook that she brings home.
she does not have a Chromebook that she brings home, right? So for me to look at it, I'm looking on my computer. on my
That's
phone.
gonna be a problem. I thought we were told we had one-to-one.
as well.
What? We said
Well,
one-to-one.
and that's that, so I talked to Tim to see, what was going on, and he said that he thought it was just that because of the damage that was going on with some of the Chromebooks when they got home from middle schools, that they were doing classroom sets, and I know that they were purchasing more Chromebooks for Skyline Middle School. But that's something that I'm looking into, because I agree that those Chromebooks should be able to go home with the students. Because that's why we did a one-to-one.
That's what I thought.
So that those things can go home on a daily basis.
Do you mind speaking up just a little
I
bit?
can see
I'm
at
sorry, we
elementary
cannot hear you at
school.
all.
I can see at elementary school that you leave them in the classroom, specifically those lower grades, but at the middle school, we need to make sure that they have those Chromebooks and they're carrying those Chromebooks
But
with
see,
them.
that's an issue for me too, because I've got a parent right now who's very concerned about their child who is way behind in math, and they had no idea that the child was even behind in math and couldn't because there's no, I look at my kids' work, I know I homeschool, yes, but my children also, they attend a co-op, so they go physically to a school, and so I do review what they do when I get home. I have an issue with having all online textbooks. I'll just end the statement there. I have an issue with online textbooks, if this is what's happening, because especially in the elementary grades, at least a paper math workbook, where they can actually use paper and pencil and.
They do that in elementary. Blue does that.
Not everywhere.
We get 15
So-
sheets home a day.
I don't- Again,
And those are
must not be everywhere, but it's, oh my gosh. Okay.
And I would need to review to see which math curriculum that they have here. And find out from Heather, because I know we just did an adoption, so I need to go back and review it to see what were did we order? Because one thing that I always like to do is, yes, even though you're getting the digital copies, you always buy a classroom set. So you buy classroom sets,
Of
plus all the,
textbooks.
yes. So it's a classroom set, and if one needs to go home, it can go home. But you also buy the digital copies, because there is no difference between a digital copy and, I think the cost difference is $1 between a digital copy and a hard, but basically a textbook. So typically you buy a classroom set of 25, and then you buy the digital. Now some programs and some, I guess, adoptions, they don't even have a textbook, that it is all a digital copy. And so those are things that we'd have to look at as we move through our next adoptions. What would be best, and what do teachers need? So that would be the question as we move through those adoptions, to determine, do we need more physical textbooks, the classroom sets, do we need the digital resources for the labs, and various things of that nature.
So, we don't know what's in the school right now. We don't know what's in the school for right now, like that's what the,
Classroom sets, right? Is that?
of
Chromebooks.
Chromebooks, but not textbooks, but maybe textbooks,
I would
but not
have
textbooks?
I would have to check, because there was, Warren County had not purchased textbooks in a long time until I did a lot of purchases back in 2020, 2021. It had been a very long time before Warren County had purchased any textbooks, going back probably as far as 2000. And so that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure, is that teachers had the tools that they needed to do their job. And so we purchased a lot of textbooks and curriculum.
A lot
for
of
the
physical
classrooms.
textbooks or online textbooks?
I would have to see which, because it all boils down to what is the program, what do they offer? Did we get the textbooks, like a classroom set, or were they all just digital? So those are things that I would have to go back and look at. We ordered from English to math to science to foreign language to biology to, I mean, it was just a lot of textbooks that we purchased over that time period.
Okay, so,
And plus, we were also purchasing the Chromebooks, because at that point in time, when I came in, we were not one-to-one as a division. And so we had to purchase the additional Chromebooks to get us to one-to-one as a division.
so do we have a readily available at each school asset list, like classroom list of, like, we have X amount of Chromebooks, we have a classroom set of physical textbooks for every math class. We have, like, do we keep track of all
So
this? Like,
there-
this should be easy data to pull and give it to us next time, or should we pull out props?
There should be a way to look at that. I can get with Ms. Bragg, because I know she was involved in all those meetings and purchases and orders. So let me get with her, find out where we're at. I do know, if you remember at the last meeting, Mr. Grant just had for you guys to approve like a purchase of $200,000 worth of Chromebooks. Because a lot of our Chromebooks are outdated, and it's time to reshuffle those in and get those moving in. So those were just, well, you just approved it at the last meeting. So I know those are in, and I know they were at Skyline High School just the other day, activating those new Chromebooks and getting those going.
And we all signed the paper that we're checking the Chromebook out, and we're taking responsibility for, and when I say we, I mean parents, sign that. So I'm just picturing, the behaviors that we're talking about and the destruction of the Chromebooks. Are parents paying for those when they get destroyed?
So most of them, I'll have to check with Tim. Tim handles all that. I know he gets the insurance on the Chromebooks, but we do, and I would expect for us to have, if there's damage to the Chromebook and it is due to the student causing physical damage to that Chromebook, that should be compensated for that we should receive damages for.
How many Chromebooks are we having damaged a year that we're looking
I'd have
at
to get
Chromebooks for everybody?
I'd have to get with Tim on that.
Okay.
Tim takes that, keeps that data.
Well, the parents may be paying for them if they're if they're leaving a set of Chromebooks in the classroom and then sending kids to change classes, you can't prove which kids pulled off the keys. There's absolutely no way to backtrack it And Aiden has even mentioned that, like, even at the, he hasn't been to school in a few weeks, in July. But even at the beginning, when you would switch classes, there's keys missing. You can't actually type. There's keys missing from the Chromebooks.
When we start holding parents responsible for their children's behavior is what I want to know.
When people start taking accountability in their administration, we haven't done that yet, so.
Because I know if my kid was involved in any of this, this would,
Oh, yeah, this
this
would
first
not
thing would be
fly.
happening,
We
but.
have policy in place to hold parents accountable, we just apparently choose not to.
Or principals.
You have something to say?
Yeah, I have a classroom set of Chromebooks, but they're from 2020. They're so beat up, my kids can barely even use them, the keys are backwards. And when we have the test, right now we're in student growth assessment testing, my Chromebooks don't work. So I have to get a whole other set from a whole other class, which delays testing. It's then a whole thing already charged because I don't have the chargers in my room. We don't have enough chargers on, like, in the building, essentially, that isn't already in another classroom being used that I can pull to use for my kids. So it'd be great if we could get new Chromebooks, but at the same time, can we prevent them to not be damaged so that they can actually last another year? Because it's an issue. And there's nothing we can do when a kid just pulls the keys off or punches the screen or flaps it in because, yeah, we can give them a write-up or we can do lunch attention, but they get a Chromebook the next day. So there's no way to track it.
I would say if a kid is destroying that in front of you
Well, we have
But
taken
also-
the Chromebook privileges away from students.
and made their parents pay for it, hopefully.
Because it's really hard to do all those things when people don't want to pay for it either. They don't want to pay their teachers, they don't want to pay their administrators, they don't want to pay people inside the schools. And we have an argument every single year in this county that no one wants to pay any more taxes. So this is a stepping stone in our county. New teachers come, they stay for a couple of years, and off they go to better pay. And it's hard to get good people, especially administrations too, when we don't pay them any money. Just saying. Or Chromebooks.
So you're gonna get us a list for
Yes, so what I have here
what's going on
is-
with the Chromebooks.
Well, not just that, but the curriculum, the textbooks. Do we have classroom sets? And Heather should have a rundown of all of that. If not, it may take her time to go back and through that. She'll have to work back through with Ms. Boyce or Ms. Strickler to pull invoices and things to see what we have. But there should be actual, we should have inventory of what is at what school.
Well, I think for a minute we were talking about communication.
I was getting ready to go back to communications here.
So I think that just having sort of that generic form that's been going out is perfectly fine. I think that, sometimes there are things that come up that, we can't predict everything that, would it be sent out or would it not be sent out? And so, I don't know. I think, just the running list that we talked about briefly of these are the events that get a notice. I don't know if there's some things that could be compiled at the end of the week, like as a tally for each school, if it's not gonna have that direct impact.
I have a question. When a teacher writes up a child or kid, is this a handwritten note? Or is it in the system that it can be?
Is it trackable?
Teachers put it in Teachers put it in Power School. They can do it electronically.
They can or they do?
They are supposed to do it electronically.
They're supposed to do it.
Now, the only thing I'll say to that is we were there during the new tardy slip thing yesterday. And that was administrators just handing a paper tardy to the students, but they were keeping a list. He didn't have a Chromebook there because he was in the hallway just writing, the administrators were writing down the tardy student and then giving them a slip to get to class. So that was something new that they were implementing. I think they just started it yesterday, just to kind of spot check the tardies. But as far as teachers go, they log directly into Power School to do a tardy.
So if a teacher logs in,
That's what we were told.
I know that's what we're told, but that's the, so what is the process when you write a
We fill
referral?
out a handwritten paper, and we make a note of it in Power School.
Then we get it to Matt.
so where does the note?
So I think, I'm thinking what I'm,
Front office.
So to be thrown away.
To be put in like the dean's box or something, and then it's admin's.
So then the boy that I saw leaving the classroom, telling the teacher F off, and then the paper that he crumpled up and threw in the trash can, that would have been his referral?
Do you email the parents after, or that's allowed, what you're talking about?
No.
You're not allowed to email parents?
That's not a teacher's job.
Does an email get to the parents is my question.
I have no idea.
I'm not.
Well, we have to email, it doesn't always.
What did, you had a, there was somebody in the back that wanted to.
Yes.
You have a question? Yes.
I just want to say, as far as the tardies, Power School, my students, so we look at Power School weekly, and every parent's able to do that. I'm not sure who,
Only if it
I
makes it there though.
can't speak to, right, I can't speak to if it actually makes it there, but I will tell you that, if my children are tardy to a class, it shows up on there. So they get a daily, a weekly attendance report that it says that they tardy this day, or, what it says with their attendance. Just like,
I know back in my day, and it was a very long time ago, when we got in trouble and we were being sent down, we were never given a note. There was actually a phone call made, every teacher had a phone in their room, it was before cell phone.
I remember that.
And they would call and say, I am sending Chris Collins to the principal's office because she was doing whatever I was doing, I'm sure. And they were expecting me, and if I didn't show up, they sent administrators out digging me up. And one came to my home and said, yeah. So this whole note business is nuts to me.
And the student, even though we call and
Okay,
say,
so you
hey,
call too?
heads up. They, again, the students get sent back to class.
Okay.
So like we're at our wits' end.
Oh no, my mother was called and said, you gotta go pick her
That's
up.
what
I
it
said,
is. Well, and someone that I spoke to yesterday mentioned something that used to be called the, was it the Wildcat class, or what was it
The
called?
Wildcat Room, yes.
That's not there anymore? Someone was.
It is, it's full often now.
It's still there.
That's when the back kids go, like a suspension room.
But it's like not ISS, right? It's like
It
somewhere in
have to,
between.
like, kind of grow fit a kid in there.
Okay. Someone I talked to yesterday liked that.
No,
I
this
liked
is
it
the
and
honest
thought it was
dialogue we
very.
have to have.
She's being the baby.
I'm not confused.
Yeah.
So I have a question, do you not put in, if a student comes in tardy, are you not checking that in Power School that they're tardy in Power School? You do check their attendance, so when you do attendance in your classroom, so if they come in tardy, you check that they're tardy
Yes.
in Power School?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it possible for you guys, because I'm thinking that the breakdown of all of this is solely communication, like you guys are not being notified of what's actually happening. Would it be possible for you guys to meet with the teachers privately from Skyline, request how many wrote up a student, and then check to see if those write-ups are currently in the office from the beginning date of this year? Because I think that that would unleash or surface a far greater problem, because someone's not talking.
Yep.
So if you can meet with every single teacher and say, I want to know how many kids you wrote up, I want their names, and I want to know the date that you wrote them up, go check with administration, somebody's lying.
And not necessarily the school board, but administration.
Yes.
I mean, have we had a room of teachers and administration from like each? Because they're afraid.
They're afraid, they're gonna
Right.
get
So do you ever
stared
sit down, like, I don't know, you may, I'm just asking questions. Do you ever sit down and have like a head teacher from each of the schools and administration from each of the schools and just go, what is going on?
What if the head teacher?
Or is that not happening?
So I do walk around, and I don't, when I walk around the schools, if the teacher has their door shut, I'm not going to interrupt their classroom.
Sure.
But a lot of times, if the teacher has their door open, I will step in, I will talk to the teachers, but it's One of the things I'm going to attend the next faculty meeting. I will be here for that. But yes, we do get out to make sure that we're having those conversations. I have teachers email me. I had just this week, I had 2 staff members email me, so they wanted to have a chat with me, and I went over to their school and we had a conversation about what they needed to talk to me about. And so, I'm going over and having those conversations, and if a staff member wants to talk to me, I'm here for them to have a conversation.
Do a lot just not come to you because they're afraid?
Do
they need an advocate?
I'll say it,
I'm-
whatever teacher's advocate
here.
wants it, I will be your
I'm
advocate.
just curious if that would be something
But
that
it
they
would
would be
definitely be
comfortable
needed.
discussing, and then that could go up, because it sounds like they need an advocate.
And also-
They are afraid.
Absolutely, and also what about giving them an anonymous forum to really, just you five.
Or-
Give them an anonymous forum to submit to you guys the problems in their school. It avoids retaliation. You actually will hear their problems one-on-one if you're willing to, you wouldn't even talk about my kid, if you're actually willing to talk about the issues at hand. Give them an opportunity to speak up without the fear of, because that's absolutely what's happening. And it's total ignorance if you're gonna act like it's not.
Yeah, the next teacher workday, I know most of you on the board have day jobs and stuff, but the next teacher workday, you tell the principal to keep his ass at home, and any other administrator can sit his ass at home, and you ask just the teachers
Yes,
to come to a closed door that's not in the school.
yes.
Maybe your county government building or a private offshoot someplace, you guys find a spot,
Yep.
and you bring the teachers in, you meet them all one-on-one, and find out where the failures are, because any violence of a child that was allowed back into school the next day, that, my opinion, principal should have been sent out the door the day after that.
Thank you, sir. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, we would have been. When we got in a fight in school back in our day, and I know I'm older than a couple of you, but equal in age, and a couple, no offense, we were instantly 3 days off, and those 3 days were actually used by the school to investigate the issue, find out who was at fault, and then there was suspensions given out for instigators or for both. But it was instant, 3 days, you're gone, and you're not coming back for 3 days, mom and dad come pick up your kid, because you ain't getting on the bus.
Who you guys have left in charge this long, it's obviously not working. So like, we're already past Bobby. This is not about doing that. The people in charge are not withholding your policies. You guys can sit here till 10:30 tonight and make as many rules and changes as you want. Change policies, 911 policies, get nurses training, get advocacy for teachers. Nothing will matter when you walk out of this building if it's not enforced, if you're not talking within the 2 weeks, if you're not holding people accountable, and also the people that are being held accountable are not taking responsibility. And it absolutely starts when you take accountability for a problem or it doesn't get fixed. Otherwise, it's called covering our asses. And that's exactly
And if
what's
your staff
happening.
is afraid to tell you, you really have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
Bad enough,
No
they're
idea
taking
what's
it from
happening, and that's
violent
awful.
students, and they're scared of the
Because if
bosses
these are
for
what
no
you
support.
know, imagine what you don't know,
Yep.
because this is the only part that they have allowed you to find out.
Yep.
So there is a whole lot more going on behind than just this.
The people,
And no one
yeah.
is saying that you guys are against each other. That I hate to see, because there's no one up there
Right,
that is not on the same page.
amen.
I hate the accusing of lying, like, that's nonsense. You guys all care about there, and you wouldn't be there. So
Yep.
I just
None
want
of
to
you are
urge
bureaucrats.
maybe
That is
someone
something
from the
everybody can
teachers
tell
group
about.
to have set up an advocate and have those discussions with administrations on their behalf, because they have no one speaking for them.
If I may ask a question. Within the past 3 years, we were told, my husband and I, we were told by an administrator that they are unable to submit to discipline students because they lose funding. If they submit a form for a student that needed to be disciplined, they lose funding. So can you all speak to that? Because
So I've
to
heard,
me, that is
I've had 5 or 7 people ask me that in the past week or so. And I don't know where that's, yeah, go ahead, Dr. Ballinger, because.
Does it come from the attendance policy?
No, it's funding is based off the membership. And if a student is enrolled, membership is if, once you enroll, you're a member of the school system. And so the only way you become, there are 2 ways, or I guess, a couple ways that you do not, of course, keep your membership. So one, if you pull your child out, then they're not a member. If a child is expelled, not suspended, but expelled, that means the school has nothing to do with them, then they, you do not receive funding for that. If a child misses 15 consecutive days of being absent, they're automatically dropped from the rolls.
And this is even if
So-
it's a suspension due to
No,
fighting violence or
suspension.
something like that?
Suspensions, so suspensions are, students are members still if they're suspended.
So that's the question, because I've
It's
had
only
people
expulsion.
call and say that, they've been told we can't do back-to-back suspensions
No.
because of funding, and I don't know where that comes from, because that's never been a fact that I've known, or.
Yeah, that totally blows my mind, and I'm an educator. I've never heard that ever. Now, other than what he just described, a child is like literally, hey, we're moving to Hawaii. Child's going to unroll. Sometimes we have had situations where child, is kind of MIA, we've made contact, well, and after 15 days, when you've made multiple contacts with the family, because maybe there's an emergency situation, they didn't tell us or something, they are unenrolled, but never from, that should have no factor, no bearing in that, so.
Or there's a child who gets in trouble and the parent withdraws them to avoid, because we know that has definitely happened.
What did you say?
I mean, and that can happen if a child, if they unenroll him.
Commits
But
an act that is egregious and the parent pulls them to avoid an expulsion on the record, or doesn't like the continuous suspensions, they pull them. We do know that happens. Also, we have to account for the state counts. Can you talk about the state counts and how that gets tallied up?
State counts.
The state website where they log the number of offenses that occur at each, I have the folder
What we submit
of
for
it
the
right here.
behaviors.
Like it's.
Like what we look at, what we look at, the
Right, right,
numbers.
so like when I
That's the state
go to the
counts.
state website and I can pull up and I can see where it says that, Skyline Middle School only had 11 fights during that school year. And we all know that that isn't true, but that's what the number says online. So what happens to us as a district when we report accurate data to the state and the state sees our numbers are through the roof? What happens to us then?
I guess that you just depend upon what the state would have to say about that. I mean,
Right, and what could the
it's-
state
it's-
say about that?
But you're sitting here saying that administrators aren't reporting accurate data, and I would not know, because I have to certify, and as far as I know, everything is accurately reported.
Okay, so.
Otherwise, I would not certify something if it's false.
So if our counts were sky high, what would happen to us? What's the state gonna do to us?
Is that tied to funding, those numbers?
No, I think the only thing
Here is
that.
not attached to funding, is it?
The only thing I think they could do is if you have certain things that could fall, and then the school could be labeled as potentially dangerous.
Potentially dangerous school, right? And so what does that do? If our schools lose accreditation, what does that do
That's
to
not
your?
part of accreditation though,
Okay.
behavior. Like,
What
that part.
what we were told is that disciplinary action in writing is strongly discouraged because Richmond holds, or their funding is determined on whatever. So They don't send in disciplinary action because they are discouraged to do so because Richmond holds funding. That's exactly what we're doing.
I can tell you that I have never and I will never make a decision as far as discipline when it comes to funding.
No, I'm not saying that you are, I'm saying that that's from an administrator.
I've been told the same.
So what am I missing? Why are we suspending violent children? What am I missing?
When was the last time someone was expelled? I know that question was asked 2 weeks ago at the meeting. I feel like that has been enough time for someone to come up with a valid answer. When was the last time a student was expelled from Warren County Public Schools?
We don't have access to any of that data.
So I can't even access like a parent's phone number, like to call somebody if I hear something, like I can't access that. So when was the last time you didn't look it up?
I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't go back and look up, but what I was told was it's probably 2000.
So if it has nothing to do with the funding, then my question is, why wouldn't a principal want, if one of these poor teachers get threatened? I mean, you would have done that back in our day. Oh, good God. I mean, but teachers were allowed to take down a violent student. So why aren't we suspending? What am I missing? I gotta be missing something. What is the principal, why doesn't the principal want teachers to be safe?
It looks bad on the school, and Skyline looks bad anyway.
It
So
looks
is it the
bad
principal's
anyway.
decision? Is it the principal's decision? Good God, it is the principal's
Okay.
decision.
So it looks bad on the school
Good
to
God.
suspend kids.
I mean, I think we need to be clear, that's not coming from this board.
No,
ma'am,
no,
I'm
ma'am.
not accusing you.
No.
Well, here we go. No offense, Dr. Boucher, but it does look like it's pointing right at the principals again. It looked that way to me 2 weeks ago.
Whose decision does it fall on? Whose shoulders directly? Somebody answer me, please. Whose shoulders does it fall on directly to expel a student?
Well, that's the board.
Oh,
So-
then.
Hold on,
So
no,
you,
no.
so I have to make a recommendation, and the only people that has the power to expel
Okay.
through a recommendation is the board.
So he
All
has to
right, so
recommend it to us for us to be allowed to vote to expel a student.
All right, so walk me through this. I'm a student. I threaten to do bodily harm to this teacher. Or I have done bodily harm, and after investigation proves I instigated the bodily harm. So I am the fault.
And broke a bone.
And did damage, yes. Or I threatened to do damage or did damage to a teacher. Now walk me through the next step. The teacher or medical professionals, what have you, say, yeah, this student did this to this student, or a student did something to the teacher. What happens next?
Well, we don't even know if anyone knows how to call 911 here, so.
Well, what is the procedure that's supposed to be next?
What happens next after the teacher is, a student's assaulted or a teacher's threatened and assaulted? What happens next?
So when
For
you
the
look
teachers.
when you look at your discipline, so administrators will do an automatic 10-day suspension, and then the 10-day suspension, they go before the superintendent's designee for additional discipline for a hearing.
And then you meet with the teacher and say, what's your side of it? And then you meet with the student.
No, that is usually done beforehand, sent up to the.
And then if everybody's determined that the child is at fault, then they get a 10-day automatic suspension?
So most of the time when you have some situation, principals can only suspend up to 10 days.
Okay.
And then anything above that goes through the superintendent's designee.
Okay.
With a hearing at central office with the parent.
How often are we suspending students?
Administrators suspend students all the time.
Okay.
I was told today that this school has had roughly 200 days of suspension so far this school year.
Just the school year?
Has had what?
200 suspensions since the start of school, which was, what?
Bobby's doing fine.
That's just the suspensions. That's not what we should be expecting for expulsions.
So do you agree with what I was just told? If I threaten you and I'm a student and I threaten you, you report it, right? To the principal, what did you do at that point if that was the case? I threatened you, or I put my hands on you.
You'd call police.
They don't want the camera.
Can you stop putting, I'm sorry.
board needs to have private meeting with teachers only, and you tell the principal to keep his ass at home. And as administrators and anybody else that's got their, anywhere, their tentacles close to them, you bring fully teachers, ground level truths. And you guys will fix this, but it starts with cameras in those rooms.
I have a hard time believing that a principal is going to sign up to have a school full of chaos. They're getting direction to not report things.
Not from this board though, this board's not.
No, but I will say, so we have a superintendent's evaluation process. And so when each board member should be getting a chance to evaluate, I think really what the root cause is that maybe if the school is violent and things aren't getting handled, it could actually affect his pay.
Who's pay?
Superintendent's pay. He has to be evaluated yearly. So that's part of what's in this binder. So you can go on the Virginia Department of Education website, Guidelines for Uniform Performance Standards and Evaluation Criteria for Superintendents. They also have documents such as this. I'll hold that up so you can see. The Superintendent Evaluation System, which describes what they're supposed to do. So this is how he gets evaluated and will affect
Well,
how.
man, you can't sit here and at least convince me, no offense, that me or any of you on the board wish bad upon teachers or students, the good students. I don't believe Dr. Ballinger would ever have chosen this career if he was that kind of person. He doesn't strike me as that person.
I don't think that he
believe it.
wished
So,
that.
But I have heard this about now the principal. It seems that there is an issue there where we do not like to suspend kids. And if we're afraid that they're gonna go hook into drugs or turn to crime because they're no longer being babysat in this mini prison that doesn't have enough prison guards.
The inmates are running the prison.
The inmates are running the prison. No offense, we got a perfectly good jail down the road for those kids.
So is there a procedure of how a principal loses their job? Is there so many strikes today where Virginia's a right to work state, but I understand they're probably contracted? Is there a
So that's-
procedure for?
That's gonna go through, Dr. Ballinger is gonna do evaluations through each of the sites.
Okay.
there's a principal evaluation.
And, yeah, the principal
Because it
evaluation.
just,
It's from him, not from us.
right, yeah, no, that's what I was sort of, okay. So there is a procedure to get like that sort of thing, and you're working.
And I think all of that is also on the website that she referenced. There's
Yes.
information
Yes,
on
yes,
teacher
right.
evalu,
I didn't hear that.
Oh, he didn't say it, he did not though, but yes, he did.
there's information there on teacher evaluation, the process that is required by the VDOE in the state of Virginia. There's information on the principal evaluation and the process that's required, and all, everything on there.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, not that I want to refer you to a website, but yes, there are certainly
No, I
processes.
will refer to
Yes.
it, because we do hear a lot about teacher
Yes.
evaluation, stuff like
Yes.
that. I mean, our teachers are amazing. Amazing. We would have left this county years ago if it was not for the teachers in this county. We would have bolted, I'm not kidding, 20 years ago. But it sounds like there's just a principal or administration problem, and it sounds like that's what's coming from the teachers as well.
And taxpayers not paying enough, not wanting to pay more so we can hire
For sure,
more
that's,
help,
the money
more
is,
prison
don't
guards
get
in
me
this.
started on the money, but that
In
is a
prison.
huge thing.
Well, and so one of the things that I have discovered that I want to see happen is from what it looks like, every other region in Virginia, they have these things called regional alternative education facilities. And they are aimed at being the hard stop that is going to change that child's life. Like you are not functioning inside of this school. All you're doing is spreading your bad behavior to others. So we're taking you out, we're putting you into this school. It's gonna have your 4 core subjects,
Right.
and it's gonna have a substance abuse
When we
counselor.
sat down, we started talking about this. Mark and I grew up in
Yeah.
Indiana. We had one of those schools in Indiana where bad kids went.
Yep,
I mean, that's just what happened. Bad
we had
kids
it in
went back to
Prince William
school.
County, too.
We had
They were
it hard
in
to
Orange.
split, they were
We
small
have never had a
partial sizes.
regional.
But we had an alternative school.
But
Like,
we've never had a regional one, and the big difference is the funding. So regional alternative education schools are 100% state funded, 100% state funded. All we need is a second county to team up with us, and we can get this regional facility. So we have some place to send the children who should not be around other children.
So this is something I've done a lot of research into, and I've actually worked on it tirelessly, and it has been the last 2 years, I've worked with Senator Obenshain on trying to get legislation passed on regional alternatives, because Warren County is, Warren, I believe Clark, and Page do not have they're not part of a regional education consortium. And it's not that there's a regional school, but there is funding that's tied to it. It goes off of the number of seats that the school, or that co-op, basically what it is, that regional alternative. And so, for instance, Warren may have 50 seats. They'll get funding on 50 seats. Page may have 25. They would get their 25. But the funding is not one school. It is a region, and you are correct that you have to have, it's more than one school. You at least have to have 2. And I have been working with, and I've talked to other school divisions to see if they are interested in it. I do have some interest in it, but again, I have worked, and this is work that I started back when I was in Smith County and working with Delegate O'Quinn and Delegate Campbell to try to get additional funding, because that can only be done legislatively. So there is a pot of money.
So it can only be set up?
It can only, there's a pot of money, and it's allocated to so many seats. You have to get legislative action to add additional programs or additional seats, and if they don't fund it, then it doesn't happen. And so I have the documentation, and we are getting ready to, I do have some schools that want to join, and so that we can get additional funding for an alternative ed, but it's not one school.
So what are you saying? So online, there's a list of schools with their addresses and the services specifically that they provide. So you're saying that there's not a physical school that they're sent to? So what is the
So a
address
lot
that-
of these regional alternative ed centers, what they're talking about, they're co-ops. So you have, for instance, when I was in Smith, because they were a part of one that included Floyd and some other schools, they had 3 seats. We were trying to lobby to get increased seats, then we switched and went to a different regional alternative ed consortium, which was with, I believe it was Scott, Lee County, back. So,
So
but
when
they
you
are.
say seats, it's like seats in a building,
No,
or what
it's
does the seats mean?
Seats means
Well, like, where do those
students.
kids go? Like, if that
So they
student
would go
is
to
in,
your alternative ed
so
center.
each county
So
has
there's
their own.
all-
That's not what I'm
building.
referring, that's not what I'm referring to though. It's, they list physical addresses of these
The
schools.
physical addresses, they do, you have to have a fiscal agent. And so
So it's like the governor's school.
it's like the governor's school, but it's a fiscal,
They go-
But like it's the base, like, so the physical.
So I
It's a
remember
fiscal
where
agent.
the physical school was in
Right.
Prince William County. Like, we called it the old Bennett. Like, that's where, like, and if you misbehaved in that school,
So each
like, you were
county has
going
its own
right over
building,
to juvenile
essentially.
hall.
But that would be like our.
It's a
diversified
physical
mind.
building.
But they wouldn't be in a physical building, but it wouldn't be the building that, you're just saying it wouldn't be the building that, like,
It's
say we
not-
partnered with Page, like, it wouldn't be.
it wouldn't be
our
there's a
students
building
at
in
Page.
between.
It wouldn't be a building like that we both share.
Yeah, no, it was that was
Right.
how it was.
Because I have done a lot of research on this, because I even backtracked to how schools got their seats. I called the VDOE, and back in I think it was 1996 or 94, when they came out with the alternative
96
ed
is when they
funding.
came out.
They went around and asked schools, how many seats did you want? Those that didn't want any seats, for instance, like Warren, said we don't want any. Those that wanted 80 seats are still funded on 80 seats. And so you can look at that list. There's a lot of schools that do not have any seats. And so that is something that I know I've worked with Dr. Ms. Vernazza about, and we're going to work on that, getting a plan together and submitting that. But it does take legislative action, and I have talked about that the last 2 years with Senator Obuchi.
So is it difficult to get seats now?
So
Unfortunately,
it
they're
takes
not
additional, basically the General Assembly has to give money to that. So it
Is this
does have
something that
to.
teachers and parents could help lobby for? If we have to do it legislatively, then let's,
I think
you
so.
need a
I
large
mean,
group of people to help do that.
yeah, I think absolutely. I know I've spoken with Dolores and I've spoken with Timmy French, and both of them are like all, about it. So we would have at least potentially someone from either
Is Dolores
side
there?
of the
Yeah, she
state.
left.
She left, yeah.
Because that was
But
one thing
yeah,
I
I
was
think
gonna
if
talk to
our
her about as
community-
well. So,
Our community really.
because I've actually been working with the superintendent in Smith, Dr. Carter, and he and I have been trying to, the two of us have been really trying to push this from his group down in Southwest Virginia, and I've been trying to push it up here at our meetings when we have our legislative meetings and luncheons up here. So we're trying in two different pockets of the state to kind of change the alternative ed funding formula to the best of our ability to where it will benefit all schools. I mean, now we don't want to take funding from anybody either.
Well,
Yeah,
we have a surplus in Virginia.
I'm not
We
disagreeing
need
with you
to
on that.
tap into that. I mean,
Uh,
so Tazewell and Russell counties, they have
They do.
500 seats.
That is correct. And there's two schools.
500.
What are their school division sizes?
Well,
I was gonna say,
I don't
they're
think
not
they
like
have-
huge.
No,
school division
that, I don't think they have 500, I think they have 80 seats, but
Says
they each
500.
receive $500,000.
It says this program serves 500 students in grades 4 through 12.
But they may serve that, but they may not be getting the full funding on it, because I know there's a number of seats.
Program.
I just have a quick question. If you, your district asks for a certain number of seats, you're granted a certain number of seats. If you don't fill those seats, do you lose funding?
So the answer to that would be yes. You would not have if the child's not in the seat, it would go back into the pot. This is how it works. So if you don't have enough students, you have 50 seats, you only fill 25, they will throw 25 back into the pot and redistribute to all the other alternative eds for that year
So
or for the next year.
I just want to make sure there's no, we don't want to flip the coin on the other side. Like, we're not incentivizing sending a child to a school that they don't need to be sent to.
Right.
We wouldn't
Other
lose
thing
this.
that I want to bring up is, the kids that we're having problems with now in the middle school, these are the kids that we were having problems with in elementary school. So our teachers need to be able to, they need to be able to have some sort of, we don't want to label a child, because children can change in environments and things like that, but I think we need to back up a little bit and look at what's happening with that child in elementary school before they come to middle school already really angry. So we can help and stop and identify. So I don't know what that solution is, but I just research that.
Is our alternative school full right now? Because I keep being told that it's full, but then other people tell me it's not full. So Diversified Minds, is that full?
So I would need to check with Brandon because she is now the director of pupil services. And so she oversees Diversified Minds, the placement of students, and she's doing the, discipline hearings. So her and Mr. Smith are the,
Right,
ones
yeah,
who
I
are
just want to know if
discipline
it's full,
hearings.
'cause
And so I would need to check with her on her placements because we do have limited staff. And so I would just need to see what her numbers are right now.
I mean, I was told there was 5 kids in there last week. So, I mean, we can house more than 5, right?
Yes.
Okay, what's the capacity for that?
I mean, I would think that, it would probably be close to I'd say 25 to 30 students possibly. I'd have to go back
Or
over and look.
diversified, but and more on the.
I mean, I'm just
the 4 to
taking a
6,
shot
the
at-
3 to 5, yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
because we do have those other, like you said, the 3 to 5, 4 to 6
Yeah.
programs.
Are we also calling social services for home checks on some of these? I'm just curious. Normally, if there's violence at school, there's violence happening at home, or something really bad is happening at home. I was just curious if you guys are doing that as well.
So I think you know, school employees are mandated reporters.
Right.
School employees are mandated reporters. And so if they see something that they feel is reportable, they will report that. And, you know, then that's turned over to DSS.
Is there something, a policy in place to if they get 3 calls home in a certain X amount of period of time, that it automatically triggers, hey, now we have to go above that to have that?
I don't think you're gonna be, I mean, you know, there has to be reasons to make a call to DSS, so. I mean,
If we call, once you call, that's all we can do. We can no longer know anything about the situation.
Yeah, DSS investigates that themselves, and they're not gonna investigate if you say I called their parent 3 times and they didn't pick up.
Yeah, I
I'd
mean,
be
just
surprised if
so
that was the
it's
case.
there,
That's not us.
And the historic statistic with that is bad things are happening at home when kids are acting out like this. So I just wanted to see if there was a way that we were notifying somebody as well to do a well for.
Well, and I think the courts will, but, so I know people will see, like, I don't want children to have a criminal record. I certainly wouldn't want them to have an assault. But with that said, I see the court system as like that intervention, because if the SRO files charges, well, the school system, we can't force a parent to really do anything, but that judge can.
I knew it escalated to that point. I was trying to get it before it happened to that.
Oh, okay, yeah, unfortunately, I don't.
When they're young and they're coming to school and you're starting to see behaviors that are bad, is there something that's triggering them to be checked at home? No, stopping it before it gets there.
Before, yeah. Prevention instead of
I'm
proactive
telling
instead of
the
reactive.
school teachers, and I know for a fact, that they have concerns about individual children, that they have no avenue to do anything with it, and they're told to just deal with it. And so, you know,
That's scary.
it is scary, because a child isn't showing up at middle school with a flip switch, and
Unless something terrible is happening.
unless
at
something
home.
terrible, you know, because things happen.
Yeah.
But that child has had a record of behaviors that an elementary school teacher has already attempted to voice, or voiced, and it's been shut down.
Well, and they documented in Power School to the best of their ability, which
What does that do for a child? So I can put something in a notebook all day long,
but
right?
it warns the future teacher. It just warns,
Which is kind of,
yeah.
If Diversified Minds is full, does that mean whatever child that was like going to be sent there, does that mean they are then, if Diversified Minds is full, allowed to return to, like, let's say Skyline Middle School or like Warren Middle School or something, like if it's full? So then what happens?
No, not necessarily. That's why we have a 3 to 5 program and a 4 to 6 program.
Well, not necessarily is not a no. So is it, if Diversified Minds is full, does that mean that a child would then have an opportunity to re-enter a Skyline Middle School or Warren Middle School?
Well, I mean, so I guess my answer would be, if the recommendation is to place the child there, then the answer would be no. We're not going to say, okay, well, we don't have room, so we're going to put them back. We're going to find a different solution for students that fit that student.
But they're also, Diversified Minds in 4 to 6, it's only a temporary thing, right? It's like they're sentenced to, what, Diversified Minds, 6 weeks? It varies, or what is the?
It can vary. I mean, we've had students that maybe they've been in Diversified Minds for 2 years now, and then you can put a child in a 4 to 6 program. It's six months, a year. It's long-term suspensions. I mean, so you look at those programs to see. And basically that's what they are. They're a long-term suspension.
Could we, as a board, see those enrollments to know, like, could you get that data for us and let us know? Because
How many are diversified minds?
I would like to know how many are at Diversified Minds for how long, like how many have been at Diversified Minds for 2 years? How many have been, because I thought, at least from just talking to people, it sounds
Get out
short.
of there as well? Do they have to meet certain goals or steps or?
Their anger management offer, counseling services, anger management requirements to return back to public school with other students. If they've proven themselves a danger and their parents can't afford rehabilitation, now what?
So I know we do contract with mental health providers. We voted on the one in like June and the other one in like July. Like, so there are absolutely mental health services that are provided for the children that need them. Now, I have no idea if we're requiring that as a,
Do we need more?
Do
we always need more of
We-
everything?
well, right,
I mean,
well,
it's a loaded question, we need more of
Yeah.
everything. I
no,
agree.
we don't ever see the data. We don't know. We're not given the data, we're not given the counts, we're not given the numbers. We voted to provide those services for whatever child needs them, but we don't know how many children are utilizing them or.
I don't think we've ever asked
them.
for it, so if we ask for it, I think we could dig and
I was
start
gonna
getting
say,
some of
because
it.
you
Because some of this stuff isn't, you know,
In the budget, right? You have.
It's funded,
Number was 3.
funded through Medicaid, and so we don't even have to, the ones that we voted on back in like June and whatnot, it's not, like our school system is getting Medicaid to pay for it, was my understanding from what was explained to us.
I'm pretty sure
Correct.
it's out of the budget.
There are also issues of provider availability in this area of mental health services for children, and that's across the board, so we can't, you know, skirt
It
them
was-
into
What's the
existence.
mom and dad? Like, I don't understand where the parents are, like.
that's a struggle though,
I mean, even involved
very
mom and
much,
dad,
especially,
can't find a therapist sometimes.
yeah, finding services for kids is a struggle, outside services, a lot, and particularly the younger they are, like 3 to 5, 3 to 6, 7, 8 years old. It's not a huge area that, you know, there's a lot of places, or there's just not a lot of options, you know, for services. And they're really young age too.
Are you guys, do you track the early suspensions, the suspensions of the kids that are in elementary school?
I think all suspensions are tracked because it's part of their attendance record, because it would always remain on their attendance record, because it would go in as a suspension. So and I don't want to speak, but I'm guessing, you know, it should, in our Power Schools data system, you know, if a child was suspended in kindergarten, you could pull up that child's record. That's part of his educational record, is his attendance, and one of the options, you know, is going to be a suspension in there.
So the middle schools can see the kids that are coming up into their ranks.
I'm going to let him answer that specific question about what is available to see.
Information is in Power School, so it's logged in Power School. I mean, all students have their, you know, their profile with, you know, demographics, student log, notes, disciplinary actions. I mean, you know, there is a, you know, the Power School has a lot of information. It has all their testing data in it. It has the SOLs that they passed. It has historical grades. I mean, it's really, everything is in there. It's basically the old cumulative file that back in the day, before we had these programs, that teachers had to put everything and administrators had to keep everything in that file, and it stayed in central office. Well, now it's all in this program.
Are we doing any kind of parent outreach to try to get parents more involved in their children?
No.
It's been the theme for, this is now, what, parent engagement 2.0, but I still have parents telling me that they're not allowed to come to this school.
Well,
Like,
that's
it's-
crap. Your parents are allowed to go to school,
Of
that's
course,
nonsense.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely
Yeah.
not true. And parents have so much control over their kids and their education, everything. I know the ins and outs of all that, so that's, of course, but is there any outreach community that we've done to try to get parents?
So I know we started off the year with the Family Fun Day, invited families to come out. We had a pretty decent showing, I would think, there on that day. That was just to kick off the year, and we'll do another one next year.
I don't think your parents who need
That-
help are gonna show up at the funding.
And so that, they were asking about parent engagement.
Right.
I
And
think
things
she's
that were-
asking about resources, and I'm not like,
Yeah.
I'm really not trying to be rude, but that's a huge question. What are we doing for the parents that are out there busting their tail to make ends meet? And their children are, I believe that we're all doing the very best that we can. So the question is, what can we do better for parents? Aside from a family fun day, because the parents that are struggling are not coming to a family fun day.
So one of the things that I had wanted to see here, so I used to be a foster parent, but we were a foster parent through Fairfax County Social Services, and they had parent mentorships available. It was volunteers, and they would mentor parents who needed help, and I would love to see something like that started out here. I don't know if that would be through, if we could do some sort of volunteer base through like the school system, or through, if we needed to do it through social services. But I think mentorship is, we can do that. We can do that for children as well. Like, if you have a child that's being bullied and there's a child who is not, like, just partner them up, buddy system of
Yeah, they do a lot
just
of that
helping.
actually in school too. I was just more concerned about the parents.
We've talked about that at Resi. There's a counseling advisory committee there, and that's been an idea that's come up. It came up more with some of the attendance issues and the chronic absenteeism, and that came up with, what about parents that really just can't get their kid to school? Like,
Right.
so is there a buddy system that can be made that, okay, we missed the bus today, is there another mom that could swing by
That's exactly
and get
what
my
I'm
kid
asking
to
about.
school?
That's
So those
exactly-
conversations are happening, I would think, at the school level. At least the conversation I've been involved in has been at the school level. But you're right, a division-wide conversation, hey, this is an idea from up here, let's
Right.
put that out to each of the schools to see, is there a way? Parents that are interested in that are able to volunteer to help another family,
I
put a
would
list
be
together.
concerned, my husband, I would be
And then
very,
connect-
very interested in
connect
that.
together that way.
I love that. Okay.
And I think we would have to do that on like more of a personal
It's a
or
personal, it's like a
PTO
school
kind of level,
like
'cause,
way that
I
they're
mean,
doing it.
the schools can't like insure the vehicle.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well,
But-
no,
But it's like a
I think the
friendship buddies.
grassroots side of things
But
is
it's also
really big
caring
too.
people like me. I am privileged, I can stay home. Other moms gotta work 4 jobs and can't be there to get their kids on the bus. If you have that ability to go and help a mom, I've lived here for a long time, but I also don't know a lot of people. If there was such a thing of an exchange like that, that would be something that I personally would be interested in. So that's what I was supporting there.
I think sometimes we speak out of this for Mount too, as far as attendance. There's COVID, there's things like that. You got to, I mean, personally, we've had that issue. Our kids are sick, but at the same time, they don't want to miss school because they are having extreme anxiety about the attendance, the pressure that they're feeling, which comes back to the funding, which is sad that everything seems to come back to the money.
Well, it's only 15 days consecutive.
If they miss, what is it?
18, it's 10%, and that's
Yeah,
the
18.
state.
But that's only chronic absenteeism.
That's-
That's
yeah.
not,
Right.
that is not funding, that chronic absenteeism has nothing to do with funding.
Right. So if your kid's sick, that has no part of the funding.
It affects the accreditation.
We do want them to be
It
in
affects
school.
the accreditation,
It's hard for us to teach them if they're not here.
that's right.
But if they're sick for 15 days, the school's not gonna lose their funding.
They could go on home back.
If they're sick and there's a legitimate, the only time they're dropped after 15 days is if we don't hear anything from you.
Right.
What was the 3 days? Is that a party, there was something to
You
do
can
with
adopt it after 3 days.
5 days, I think.
5
it's
days.
So then was it like 3
Three
tardies
tardies
equals
equals
absence?
Yeah.
But you can-
I think I read it in policy.
But it was on
I would have
the
to,
presentation on the screen.
And I've got Heather looking into
Okay.
that. So-
That's right, that's where that came from.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It was at the convocation.
It was just, you were looking at an email from Skyline High School, and so I had Heather, I forwarded that to Heather.
Okay.
And
I
so
knew
I
I
have
had seen
Heather
it
looking into that.
It was a power, it was a.
Miss Bragg is looking into that, so.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, as far as resources for families, I mean, I don't want to, retry ground that we've already been on, but I feel like that's something else that if we did have a communications person, that's something that person could be putting together. And I don't feel that I want to hire a communications person, speaking for myself, I don't want to hire a communications person to spin things or lie about what's happening in the schools or pretend everything's great. I want to hire a communications person who can communicate to families, whose job is to get those messages out. The principals, their first responsibility is to, the students who are involved, the students' parents. There is not someone who is assigned division-wide to make sure the community of parents knows about things. And I think our principals are doing the best they can. I think we've given more direction lately, and I think they're doing better. But I think if we hired a person whose job it was to communicate about these things, they could be telling people when things are happening. They could be seeing, oh, there's a whole problem with vaping. We need to put together resources for families. They could be doing an infographic. They could be, talking to our community partners, the Warren Coalition, finding out things that we could put together as a community and offer as resources to parents.
So don't we already pay administrators to do that?
We pay administrators to do that and like 45 other things.
Okay.
That's
So
very true.
there's not a person whose whole role is to do
If we're
that.
paying $80,000 to start for a communication director, I feel like that's insulting.
We can talk about it.
Well, I think that point is something we can talk about. It doesn't necessarily need to be, it could be a coordinator, it could be a communications coordinator. I think that's a workable point for certainly. But
I
there's
like
so
all
many
those
things, like, connecting all the community. Lions Club does stuff, do we have a Rotary, Big Brothers, Big Sisters? Connecting all of that, it takes somebody that can get out in the community to meet with these people, and maybe not during that school time. It might be having to meet with them at 7 o'clock at night. And I think,
1
like,
to 2 in the afternoon, when the principal's
Parents
busy.
that are
Or-
working
yeah, or-
3 jobs are not part of the Lions Club.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The parents that are working 3 jobs are not part of the Lions Club.
You're right, but if they can connect all of that, and they can gather the resources, they can connect parents to where services could potentially be, connect with, DHHR, connect to all of that. They can bring that all together as a resource, could definitely be an option of that too.
My first pair of eyeglasses came from the Lions Club because they came to our school and gave us hearing and vision tests, okay? And the Lions Club was instrumental in that. So, and they still do that in Fauquier County at every school. So those type of civic organizations can partner with the school systems for all kind of things.
I know, I guess my biggest concern was if they can't get their kids here, they can't get here for those things.
No, I think, but like having that liaison between the school and those community organizations then brings those resources to the parents. So we're not asking the parents to have to go to these meetings. We're trying to gather.
Yeah, and you don't have to go to a meeting to have that kind of, thing
Right,
done. It's just,
right.
they might do fundraisers that support, so they might not ever see somebody from one of those clubs, but they might be able to benefit from something that they're supporting to give back to our community.
But how do they know who to reach? How do they know who to help?
That's what we mean. If we had somebody that could coordinate, potentially, do all that, they could be in touch with, our guidance counselors. Our guidance counselors are a wealth of information, but they're juggling, a lot of different things too, so we could, hopefully bring all that
So
together.
you're talking about hiring 1 communications for the entire school system?
That's what we have talked about previously, yes.
If I may, would, if we hired, student advocates, and the student advocate works with the student from K through 12, and you're gonna have to have, I don't know how many you're gonna have, because you can't just do 1 student advocate, you can't just do 2. But, do it per school, break it up, by names, and that person follows the child K through 12. And that they are assigned to that child to know what's going on and to work with the parents and the child so that somebody at all times has eyes on that person, on that child.
How many people would that need?
I mean, I don't know what that would look like. I think it's very doable.
I like that idea, and I would say, we're not doing that right now, but I think one thing that is somewhat similar in that vein is our student support coaches. And we have hired student support coaches across all of our schools, and a lot of the funding for that came from these government funds like ESSER that are expiring. And so that is one thing that I know I personally would love to be able to retain the majority of our student coaches, but I don't think we will be able to unless money appeared from somewhere to do that. And all of the data that we've collected on that program has shown great returns. Those students' grades are improving, those students' attendance is improving, those coaches are making communications with those family members. They're doing fantastic work, but we do not have the funding to pay for them to stay, by and large. We're gonna keep who we can keep, but I would love to be able to do that, and I don't see how we can fit that into the budget.
Is there
right
data
now.
information that you can do when we are redoing the budget to prove that this program is essential to our community?
Yeah, those presentations have been made publicly
Yeah.
to this board.
Okay.
Yeah, it's out, it's on video, it's out there, yes.
Let's get it more up.
Do we have a teacher question
Yes, the teacher, well, teacher.
or a comment?
Okay. So I was just made aware that a email went out yesterday to parents about a hit list at Skyline. The teachers didn't know about it. The teachers were never told. We had to be told from another parent that got the email. Can communication just improve a little bit?
We shouldn't have to find that out.
Yeah, I heard about that actually while I was here yesterday and probably right before that came out, but I think,
So those emails have started going to board members, they need to
So
go to staff.
I did get that, I got that email.
So we've
And
started
I
getting
think
it as board
I think it
members.
was unfounded.
it was unfounded
It was unfounded,
from a week
but
ago.
yes, I agree, you should.
They should be, and we'll make sure that they are.
So you guys don't get the like,
The parent correspondence?
the principal email? Oh, so you guys just need to be
Thank
on
you for that.
Yep.
I haven't gotten an email in 4 years. My emails, I've had the same email for about 20. I haven't gotten an email in about 4 years. No. I get phone calls all the time.
We got the overdose email.
Not the hit list.
Oh, so you got some, but not the others.
So is the kids putting
Okay.
on summer teachers?
No, it was a rumor, it was a
I think it
rumor,
was, yeah.
unfounded,
But
that was
it was-
heard in the community last week with no details provided,
See,
and
so it's a rumor?
With all this
Yes.
violence,
it was a rumor.
especially like
See, that's
verbal
awful.
violence towards teachers, and for that to happen and it not being communicated, that's troubling.
Whose job would that have been to communicate that?
Well, as we said, I mean, it
Well,
wasn't
board.
founded.
Is that who would be in charge?
To the principal?
Is that also the principal?
Yeah, I'm trying to look for the email, I'm not ignoring you.
That's what I was looking for too. I was looking for
to
it when
see,
it
like,
came
exactly what it
through.
looked like.
Is it a principal?
I can read the emails if you guys want.
I,
Okay, yeah, I was,
Do you guys want it?
You wanna read it up here?
Sure.
We haven't got, so is the principal that was supposed to, or should have?
Came from.
So, school sites put those out.
All right, yesterday, parent notification from Skyline Middle School from Bobby Johnson. Dear Skyline families, today a parent reported to the Skyline Middle School administration that they heard in town about a hit list that was circulating at the school. This information came to the parent last week. The individual was unable to provide any further information regarding who stated this, where the information came from, or names, etc. However, the administration, out of abundance of caution, involved the Warren County Sheriff's Office. Couldn't call when Aiden's jaw was broken, though. Okay. Involved the Warren County Sheriff's Office through our SRO to assist in this situation. Currently, we have no evidence to confirm that this exists or that this is anything but rumor. However, we continue to be vigilant regarding this situation and continue to work with our school SRO to support the safety of our students.
But not the teachers.
Right. Or Aiden's broken jaw.
it doesn't say anything about, any details about it though. So you heard something different, I guess? 'Cause
It
doesn't-
was screenshotted from a parent.
They're saying they didn't
It's the
receive
same
it.
email.
They didn't receive.
They didn't
receive that.
Notification from a
So we
parent.
just need to make
So
sure.
are
We just need to make sure that
Make sure that
teachers
goes to
are aware
staff.
of what the parents are aware
just needs to go to staff
It
as
just
well.
needs to go to staff.
Absolutely. So that's an easy fix that we can
I've
do
got it marked here.
tomorrow.
Tell principals, make sure when they send the callers home, that staff get the callers as well.
Yeah, perfect.
For the parents of the child that was on a hit list, everybody,
We don't know if there's actually a hit list, and we don't have any names that were on a hit list, so there's no individuals that have been threatened that we know of.
But the guy at the last meeting, the board meeting, who spoke about a hit list, they've been asking for weeks now to find out if their child was on the hit list at the Warren County High School, and they never got it.
But they've never seen it either.
Right, the police will not tell them if their child is on the hit
But
list.
have the police even seen actual
I
hits?
cannot confirm that.
It just sounds like it's a rumor.
Yeah, there's some proven, there was a hit list, there was like a kid who pretended to have a gun.
Okay, you were smarter than I was with that.
He spoke about it last meeting.
It's getting cold in here.
my child was on a hit list at Warren County Middle School, and I never heard from the school. I heard from kids that had told their parents, and their parents told me, and the sheriff's office called me, and the sheriff's office didn't do anything about it, and I never ever heard anything from Warren County High School.
Sounds about
I
right,
think
I'm not
it's
surprised.
literally on a written one.
I'm so sorry.
It happens, right? It's just, it's scary.
That's my next question. Do we not have enough? Are we short-staffed? Is that why this is happening? Or people aren't getting emails or whatever?
The person in charge. The person in charge is not doing their job.
Well, we do have a new we have a new principal at Warren County Middle School, which, from all accounts, I'm hearing good
Wait, the
things.
other one has been five.
We have a new principal at Warren County Middle
That
School.
started at the beginning.
At the
of
beginning of this year.
He seems great.
He seems amazing so far, very proactive
Yes.
from everything I've,
Do you have a listing of how many days have been suspended for Skyline? Do you have that same listing for
All the schools.
I don't personally, that was just mentioned to me in conversation today,
Okay.
but I would imagine it exists.
Bullets.
Will you guys be able to update the community and like the parents based on your findings about, number one, the write-ups at Skyline? Are you guys going to like actually proactively look into that? Maybe not just one person, so there's multiple people seeing the problem, and maybe do it before there's enough time to fix this problem. I'm just gonna make my suggestion one more time, take it or leave it. Please proactively meet with these teachers, give them a private, safe place to speak up. Ask them how many write-ups they have done this year thus far, and check with administration that those write-ups exist. If there are write-ups being thrown away, there's automatically a problem right there. Nobody is backing these children, the good or the bad behavior, whatever, nobody's being backed. And it's time we start backing the kids. Screw the funding, back the kids. Aiden is home, missing 2 adult teeth, drinking liquids for almost the 4th week. It'll be a month, what, this Sunday? It'll be a month. Back the kids. We have failed them enough. Step up. The teachers want to step up if you give them a safe place. You have to hear what they're saying. Something is wrong in the walls of these schools, and you're not going to figure out any of it unless you dig deep and get ugly and ask the really uncomfortable questions. There is not honesty here. There is a lot of covering up going on, and it's time for it to come to surface and be exposed and rectified so that we're not raising felons. We're not raising out of control children. The inmates should never at any point run the prison. I run a tight ship, and when I send my children to school, I damn sure expect the same thing. And if you are not running a tight ship, get rid of the captain. Period.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's what we're trying to do with our meeting on October 3rd, and that's why I suggested that we be able to have those enclosed for things like a student discipline matter, and that, as far as I know, and we'll check with our attorney, would qualify if there's a teacher who feels there were student discipline issues and they want to talk to us about how that was handled. So absolutely, I'm hopeful that we will be able to put out that information soon, and any teachers that want to will be able to come in and speak with us, the 5 of us, and we can look into it, so.
Even an anonymous thing, because a lot of them aren't gonna wanna show face,
Yeah.
because they don't.
Well, they can
just
all
don't.
email us, they can all call us, so those exist, but, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we can just see what kind of turnout, where we go on that Tuesday. And then we have certainly in the past sat for a day and sat, and closed and just had people filing in. And, if we find that, hey, we need more time, then that's what we'll do.
Or if there are teachers who feel like that's not the best way and we should be doing something else, please reach out and let us know. We want to hear from you, so if there's a better way to do it, tell us, and we'll do it.
And we've met with, different groups of teachers before.
Yeah, like I said, I talked to about 10 teachers today.
Yeah, but we've arranged it to meet with them before, like, all 5 of us cannot, but we can have like 2 of us meet with some teachers. We've done that before, where they meet with us at, one time. So we definitely will make that happen.
And will you guys be
Yeah.
able to publicly provide the community, like us parents, with like a written, like how many Chromebooks are actually at the school? Do our children actually have?
Oh yeah, that's
access?
public information.
We do, okay.
Like that kind of stuff is public.
And then there's also, so when we go into closed for discussing discipline problems, we're given a sheet with the counts for the month, and it details not children's names, but it is a list that says we had this many students who were disrupting the learning process, this many students who, there was a fight with injury, a fight with injury to staff member. It's this whole detailed list. I think we're to the point now where I've now found out that information, it can be made public, and I think maybe we need to start keeping that running total on our website. So,
I think the codes are like state codes, right? Like the
It's the things that
categories
the
that we.
state
How they're
So they're
state,
kind of like,
yes.
yeah.
so it doesn't say, well, we could,
I had a lot of questions the first time I saw that report.
yeah,
Mhm.
and you could look.
So I think we just have to like
But everything's coded, but the thing we
make
get
it clear
in,
what it means.
closed, it gives a little short description.
That's what I mean,
of
like,
them
we just have
all.
to make sure that
But
there's.
still, like, sometimes it'll go down in one category, but up in a similar category, and I'm like, why is that? I mean, just,
It feels a little bit muddy, but it's
better than nothing.
what we have.
It's a start, it's a start.
And it's what
I'm
we're
not saying
supposed
we
to
shouldn't do
use,
it,
so.
but, yeah, it's helpful to have some context, so you know what you're looking at. So where does this leave us with our policies? What are we?
I feel like
what are we
we
doing
are
next?
kind of still in the collecting
Yeah,
of
more
data information stage rather than I don't think we can rewrite anything right now.
I think you're right, and I think that may be frustrating for some of our community members to hear. I think us as a board, we are not fast and nimble. We are slow and plodding, and we have to figure this out and then go through 3 readings, and it'll be a while. But that is not the case for the boots on the ground. The administrators, the teachers, the central office staff all can respond right away and be improving. And I think we have seen some changes since our meeting 2 weeks ago. So I agree with you, and I would just say that, to people who feel frustrated that that's too slow, I get that, but it doesn't mean the school system as a whole is not responding faster. But the process of writing policy is not a fast process.
It's also important to note that we have the policies. We just have to
Right.
follow, it's not
It's
like.
so they don't exist. We just
They exist, we just have to actually follow the consequences and implement them. So yes, and we will continue to review them and change them as we see that we think we need to, but they are here, they
And
are covering everything.
And I
that they
feel
need to
like,
cover.
it's very clear, and I want to make sure it's very clear that, we have these policies, and there's not one person up here that does not expect them to be enforced consistently and regularly. We all, that is a non-negotiable. Those policies need to be followed. They need to be followed by our students, by our teachers, by our administration. So I just want to make that very clear. I think it has been clear. These policies need to be followed. I have not personally been approached by anybody who has given me any example or anything that has said, hey, this specifically happened, what policy, and I was told this, but I don't ever want somebody to come to me and tell me that, because I don't ever want that to happen. But if it happens, come to me and tell me that.
But you have teachers that are encouraged to not do anything about it.
Right,
So
right.
we can make policy, we can create policy, we can revise policy all we want. But until we allow our educators to say what is happening.
Right, and I don't want to hear that they're being, I don't want to say I don't want to hear, but that's not okay. That's not okay for them to be encouraged to not voice their opinion.
So
I agree.
You all need to figure out.
Yeah, right.
Why that's happening.
Correct, absolutely. I agree with you 100%, because we don't, we as a board, we don't want that to be happening. That's not anything,
Well,
that should be happening.
That's what we'll do.
Now that it is happening, now that you do know
Yeah.
it is
Right,
happening.
And we
absolutely.
need teachers to come and talk to us in these opportunities that we're going
Yeah.
to create
Just
for
like
them.
that,
Without
actually.
fear of
Yes.
recourse.
Exactly, absolutely. Agreed, 100%.
Like,
We can't have teachers sitting here about crying like that. They just want to teach their kids.
Absolutely.
And they're really
They
good
should go
teachers.
sue for retaliation if they are terminated.
they wouldn't have to sue for retaliation if their voices were heard.
Absolutely. But I think we already know one of the problems in one of the schools, because now it's the second meeting, and it seems to have bullseyes getting on the principal's forehead every time. And you guys can investigate it all you want, but I'm sorry, a couple hours here, a couple hours, a couple weeks ago, and it just seems to keep going right bullseye on one end of it.
I think crack goes downhill, and you have a systemic problem at the time.
You say that again, I'm so sorry.
And I think crack goes downhill. There is somebody up top, whether it's Richmond or below. What I've heard is that it's Richmond, and I heard it from a good source. So Richmond is telling the person underneath Richmond, and that person is telling the principal.
Well, the principal would have a chance to acknowledge or deny that, but
I don't understand how it could be Richmond.
So you're saying someone is like reporting from Richmond to somebody, and that somebody, that individual is then reporting to the principal?
Well,
I think we definitely have problems in Richmond. I've gone down to Richmond. We definitely have problems in Richmond.
Oh,
It's-
of course we
I-
do, Steve, I'm not suggesting.
Yeah, no, I definitely have problems in
That's all
Richmond,
hot
and-
mess, it just sounds.
The state was set up to have local control over school boards,
Correct.
and
That's why
like, we need to get back. Like, we in this room, our community, we know what's going on in our schools. We need to be able to take our schools back and do what is best for our children,
Yeah, that's
because,
what I understand.
yeah,
how
like-
Richmond would have to-
yeah, life here is different than life in Northern Virginia, it's different than life in Southern Virginia, and so we need to,
it's very easy, it's called transparency, people need to tell the truth. So like, where's the funding coming from? Are teachers allowed to use their voice? And are they being told?
We need to figure out how to keep you five informed. There lies the problem, because one common denominator that I keep hearing is that, oh, well, I didn't know, I didn't hear about that. No one told me. We need to figure out whose job it is that keeps the five of you informed. And that is the number one. We're not gonna fix it.
We had this conversation, we need the teachers to reach out to us, to tell us. We need them not to be worried to tell us about it. Because I don't
a
know.
broader thing than that. I mean, just like, I'm pretty sure at the last meeting, I'm part of the reason that there's a bullseye or a spotlight on Skyline Middle School, because I'm one of the complaints about Skyline Middle School. What I'm saying is to my knowledge, it seemed like you guys weren't aware of all of these problems happening in the school. So I'm saying, like, in a broader way, like, the teachers, yes, the students, yes, administration, yes, you guys are not being informed. You're not being told, and what you are being told is not the full truth. It's part of it, but it's not all of it. And it's time that the board is made aware of all of these problems, or else we're just gonna attend these meetings for the rest of our life and finish the meeting with, well, we didn't do any policies this time because, well, it's because you guys don't know. Every meeting you learn new things.
You individually,
Yeah. Yeah, so this is.
reach out to you all individually, so, I think you do know some things.
Sure, they know some things, but now they're gonna sit down, they're gonna meet individually with the teachers of each school and
Yeah.
find out the truth, especially in the trouble schools. This one being one, the high school version of the prison up the road.
Passing the buck isn't doing anything. So
Hey,
you have
that's-
to take accountability and transparency and get something done.
Nobody's passing the buck. Everybody out there knows what they need to do, they're the neck deep in this, but cameras. Let's see, cameras. If I was a teacher, I'd love a camera behind me because the first person that said, oh, that stupid didn't do that, ha! Turn on the Motorola, baby.
No, I agree. I think having them on a voluntary basis for the teachers to start with is absolutely, so I know we definitely received, that was
Yeah.
one of the meetings with the teachers that were very concerned about it, but I know we've got teachers that are very concerned to not have that protection as well, so we absolutely need to get that policy in place, which actually, I think is on the list.
It's on here. I think that's and that's a really good starting place
It should be volunteerism. Remember police officers originally, I think you might have pointed out, or somebody did, they didn't want the body cams. Now
Yep.
it proves that if they had to react with deadly force, it tells you exactly why they did it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we
I
have
mean,
to
yeah.
start somewhere, and
We
I
have to
think this is
start
gonna be
somewhere.
the easiest starting point.
Start by
We
ironing out
can't
the issue.
have enough cameras on the first day for every single thing, so why not start with the teachers that want it, partner with them, and then move forward from there. That's not the end, that's the beginning.
I don't see where you give them the choice.
Well, because we only have 10 cameras. I mean, like our
Right,
budget,
no.
budget wise,
Well,
like
we
this is
had
just
some
our
very irate
compromise.
teachers that came
The
in.
county's gonna have
Yeah.
to, or
Yeah.
the state,
Not happy.
work
Right.
over some cash.
So,
Right, right, it is a balance, especially in our teachers.
Put it out there, the past couple weeks we've been doing SGA testing, so you might have seen the different school. I would really encourage you guys to keep coming, because this is our first full week. We've been either Labor Day or the parent-teacher conference, we haven't been in routine, so please keep coming. It's been like a breath of fresh air for a lot of teachers to see you guys, as well as like, what you said earlier, is sure a lot of people are looking other places, and a lot of us were born here, and we want to just serve these kids. So please just keep coming.
We will, that's the least we can do.
and if there is any retaliation, I want to hear about it, because I am well versed in the retaliation policy and whistleblower law, and will fight for you if there is any retaliation at all whatsoever. So let's make sure all hears that. There will be no retaliation. And we all agree on that, right?
Absolutely.
Like, if there's an
Absolutely.
administrator, if there's retaliation, like, we are not
Mm-hmm.
accepting that whatsoever.
That's 100%.
We do have the grammar policy here. It's redlined here.
Oh, sounds good. Okay.
Let's see.
Who created this red line for us?
This is from our attorney. It's the policy that was originally cut up, and then this is kind of adapted to take out the,
Actually, I made those edits.
oh, excuse me, all right.
When you say originally put up, who wrote it? Like, did we already have this
The
policy?
attorney, so it's not a policy, we had a first reading, there were some changes because
We did
of
the survey.
Yeah.
they did the survey, and so, there was some edits to it, did have the attorney look at the edits, so.
So the attorney has already looked at this or not?
This is our first time seeing this function though, right? Like, it wasn't on the summer agenda. Like, it's not linked, is it?
What?
Is this linked in our documents to?
Yeah.
for
It was
everything?
on.
Yeah,
It's
I guess
like in there.
JOAA, down at the
Oh,
bottom.
oh, there it is, there it is.
There's just like a
Okay.
belly on there. So it's basically that same one, but it's just made into kind of a more vague, takes out the kindergarten or the self-contained classrooms.
I have a question. Why are we worrying about writing policy that's already been written, to do something more to enforce a policy that our teachers are not allowed to report.
So
We don't have a
this
camera
one-
policy.
This one, we don't. So we can't install the cameras that we purchased. So this isn't a discipline policy. So on the agenda, you'll see, I don't know if you guys can pull it up on your phones or not, but on the agenda, under the work session list, there are the links to all these different policies, like section 1 and the behavior policy, and this, at the very bottom, there's something JOAA, classroom video surveillance. So we can't legally install the cameras that we purchased until we pass a policy. So this is not an existing policy yet. So,
And that's what I was coming back to the 3 weeks that it's gonna take to write more policy.
Well, we
We're not-
just said that we already have the policies in place, and we have this meeting set up to try to hear more from teachers and from our community members. Our policies are there.
Doesn't mean they're perfect.
there are
They're not
policies there,
perfect.
they're not being enforced. So
They're not being enforced.
we need to make sure those are enforced as we collect more data from suggestions of what can be
From
tweaked.
teachers.
Right, but this, what we're reading right this moment is this camera policy, because our policies have to have 3 readings before we can vote on them. So it gives the public 3 opportunities to weigh in, and so we can't install the cameras until this policy is adopted.
So is this number 3?
This is number 2, well, I don't
I don't
even
even know
count
if
the
we said
first
the
one.
first
The
one.
first one was just kind of a rough draft
Yeah,
more than
that's-
anything.
And it got everybody a little bit
Like
upset
development,
because it
maybe?
was.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No, we can
It's
have
not a
official
reading.
reading.
Yes, it's not a
This
reading.
is not a reading.
We're just.
Okay.
Reading
Well,
is a
yeah,
word.
basically.
Yeah.
I thought this,
We had it listed as a reading, and I had to say it was not a reading.
It's not,
Because that
okay.
was the first time you were seeing it, then there were some edits that we needed to make to it
Okay.
that, and I said, okay, we'll get with those, and so we made some edits to those, so we're bringing it back for you guys to review before we start having the readings. 'Cause
Okay,
I know there will
okay.
be, conversations that will need to be had about the camera policy and things of that nature, so this is not considered a reading.
Yeah. So this is actually the first time?
Or like not even
Like
counting
not
the
even the
readings.
first meeting to approve the,
this is, yeah, so this is like the work session.
This is
So
not the
this
first
where-
time we've talked about it,
No, it's not the first time we talked about it, but it's,
but in order to create a policy, there's a procedure we have to follow. I told you, writing policy is a slow process, and I would not be
I know.
surprised if it frustrated people.
Government's the process for you guys, our kids are in a, are coming to unsafe school, essentially.
My child was
It's an
literally
unsafe
returned
school
to me not
environment.
looking like he did.
So your procedures taking 3 times after you've done an it to a thee or an I to a we has now moved it back. And so now we've got 3 more times after you're looking at it again. And my kids are still here in the,
government's the problem.
pardon?
Government is the
That's
problem.
actually law that they have to do it 3 times.
Well,
It's-
and there
it's-
are no schools in Virginia that have cameras, so
Right.
we aren't even basing our policy off of any of our neighboring counties because they don't have them. So that's why it is taking a long time because we did meet with teachers, we met with parents. We are hearing a lot of concerns about having the cameras. We did the survey to try to get some more input. It's not across the board, everybody wants them. I think, this board thought that was gonna be the case initially. That's why we
Yeah.
jumped right
We
on
did.
ordering the
We jumped on
cameras.
it quickly.
I mean,
and
we
got
got
pushback.
them. And then
Got
it
a lot of
was,
pushback.
it was a pause. And so now we have this kind of just other idea because in the meantime, we've had all of these issues rise up from Skyline Middle. And so, okay, well, as a compromise to start, do teachers want to do it on a voluntary basis? And so that's now just sort of how we're looking at it to start.
Make sure we get
So many, this is our. But we could list it for our next meeting, if there's anything that anybody wants changed. that can be our first reading next meeting.
So read this at home and just send you whatever edits we want.
So.
Okay. Okay. Just thinking through.
Right, I mean, like, we don't have to read it publicly right now, but, I mean, I think just when we put it out this time and when we put it as a reading, we probably need to have that discussion that this is not a mandatory, we've selected 10 classrooms that they're going in, because
Based on volunteers?
that's where things went wrong for us last time, and this is just a different approach to get it
Is that
started.
in here in the policy right now? It's volunteer.
What says may?
Required.
May require.
Well, and I think that's something, like the language was changed to just in a classroom versus, so that it gives that broader perspective.
Right, so initially we were talking about just the pre-K and special. the
And
children
self-contained.
We've got one stuff, and now we're opening it up for everything.
Mhm.
So,
Which it sounds like probably our secondary schools are gonna be the ones that
Yep.
want to have it.
Well, I think we need to make sure to offer it to those
Oh, yeah.
pre-K and special ed classrooms too,
Wait,
Oh, yeah.
if they,
Is there any way, I know budget season is done for right now, but is there any way that we can ask the board of supervisors for more money this late in the game? That's like not a thing, is it? Is it?
Well, I think we can ask for money whenever we want to.
You can
Whenever we, I mean, whenever we determine it's necessary.
Okay, all
I
right,
think we can ask.
okay.
Basically, we just have a meeting, we vote to then say, we're gonna ask the board of supervisors to appropriate it.
And we have a budget
If we
meeting
pass this
Friday.
policy and we have like,
Right.
I don't know, there are teachers that say, oh, I want one.
If we have 100 volunteers, yeah.
Then I would like to be able to ask the supervisors, all right,
And we
do
can,
this, okay.
we can do that.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, I have a quick question. So I just want to clarify what I heard. Are the special ed classes and the pre-K classes getting a camera?
No, so that was the original discussion when we had that, it came up as sort of a first reading, that's what we originally talked about. It turned into not a first reading, that's when we paused out on everything and
What that means, like, what is that? Like,
It's just it's the required procedure, there has to be a reading.
So I just need an answer. Are they doing it or?
no, we're not doing it right now, it's still,
Where are they going?
that's what we're trying to figure out. We're saying, can we do them as a voluntary basis?
That's what we're discussing.
for
I
teachers,
understand that. How many people have asked you for?
Zero.
but we haven't asked
And
But
them.
we haven't asked them
We have- yeah.
volunteer wise.
But how many people have asked for cameras?
There's been 2 reports in Hilda J. Barber now, where there's been 2 reports of a child hit, touched, You haven't had any parents ask for cameras?
Oh,
Parents, yes,
Yeah. So when we did a survey, about 65% of the parents want cameras in all the classrooms. About 65% of the teachers said no, so they did not want the cameras. So, yeah,
So
so
babies that can't, that aren't able to articulate what's happening in a classroom?
that was the idea of why we ordered the cameras.
Right.
Because after the teachers charged,
2 teachers now, 2. There was another email that came out from
a
the
teacher's
principal.
charged.
There was another
teacher and
incident.
assistant.
There was another incident, which was recent. I got an email from the principal at Hilda J. Barber. There was another incident where a child, it was a very vague email, was a teacher did something to a child and the teacher was put on administrative leave. And we haven't heard anything
Okay,
back.
so we've got to clear this up. So what happened in May, where the teacher has now been criminally charged, so the process by which if any student makes an allegation, or I don't know the details of the situation that you're speaking about, but when it's referred, it's automatically referred to social services, to child protective services to do the investigation. The school takes a step back and we do not interfere in their investigation. I am not aware of any teacher being charged with assault.
I'll read it to you. September 12th, dear parents and guardians, in our effort to keep families informed, Warren County Public Schools want to make you aware that the school administration at Hilda J. Barber Elementary School received a report yesterday evening that a staff member made physical contact with a student in the cafeteria. It is our expectation that physical contact with students should only occur if a student is in danger to themselves, is a danger to others, or is in any way placed in harm's way. The school administration investigated the incident and went ahead and notified the SRO and DSS of the incident to make sure that we are doing everything we can do to ensure student safety. The staff member was placed on leave this afternoon due to the notification to the SRO and DSS. End of email, no other follow-up.
So that does not mean that anybody has been charged. That means that there is an investigation.
That means that I'm sending my kids to a school where something has happened and nobody's followed up.
We do not know that something has happened, because I will tell you one of the things that has shocked me since being on this board is the number of times that children have made accusations, and you go back and check the video. We go back and check the video, and there was nothing that happened. So where do we even stand with that? Like, is this still being investigated? I'm not aware of any charges being filed.
Are you aware of it?
There are no charges being filed that I'm aware of at this point in time. And so
You
I have
said
not
there's no
received,
charges being
I have
filed.
not received
That we
anything
know of
back
so
from
far, but that's up to the
from
sheriff's
the,
office.
I have not received confirmation yet.
So this exchange right here is going to be used as a reason against me wanting parents notified of this stuff. But you might not be notified next time. Would you want to be notified that there's an investigation, or not be notified that there's an investigation?
No.
I would want to be notified that there's an
I need
investigation.
to know what happened.
Mhm.
I need to know that the most vulnerable students at every location have a camera in their classroom, because they are not able to articulate to us what is happening. Second thing that's happened at Hilda, no follow-up. So I'm all for cameras, but we need to start with our most vulnerable.
The board's already on board with that, actually. If you were at the meeting, I don't know, a month
But
ago.
they just said they didn't know where the 10 were
The
going.
last work session, well, now the demand has now increased because this little mini prison's firing up and the high school's becoming one.
Right. Yeah.
So now
we
there's
know
more
that
demand.
we
Now, other
purchased 10.
teachers, just to catch you up on what the meeting was, some teachers didn't want the cameras because they thought it'd be used to grade their teaching performance. Where the board is trying to find a solution where they say, no, it's strictly for protection of child and teacher from assaultive behaviors. They're trying to come up with that. Meanwhile, we can't get enough cameras to shove them in every room, because us taxpayers don't like to pay taxes in Warren County, pay a little more, which is what we should do.
I will, I'll pay for more.
Yeah. So back to the
but
cameras
they're on.
for the most vulnerable. I think we need to address that.
We did. We purchased them, but we can't legally put them into the classrooms without writing policy.
And that's why they need to do the reading.
Because it's never been done before in Virginia.
They're
So
allocated, there are some allocated to classrooms where students are not able to articulate what is happening. Because this is the second incident.
we can't even install them until we get this part
Yeah.
done. No, it's incredibly, I'm telling you, it's government. Government's the problem. It's
We've
frustrating.
got a sign-up sheet or something to teachers to allow them to
Get
report that they
many.
want one, and that way,
Yeah.
you know, if we get 10 people that want them, okay, if we get 300, then that's a different
That'd be
situation.
good, that way we know as we're working through this very slow policy reading process, that we at least have identified who would want them.
And the hard thing is because my son's off with special needs, so they don't, it's not one of the rooms the special needs kids are in. So it's very, very difficult, so they go, hopping around as well. So that was another concern that they had, was trying to put, And some kids go here, some kids go there, there's 20, and they don't have 10.
So we just want to make a recommendation that we make sure that classrooms with the most vulnerable get cameras.
And so am I reading this right, that Dr. Brown, this paper that gave us, so the total cost to install cameras in all the classrooms is $580,000?
So this is what Mr. Grant worked up. So the cameras themselves are $682.42
Each.
That's for the
each.
first year, it says.
And so that would be 415 classrooms, so that's 283,000. Installation is 400 each, so that's 166. Licensing, you can see that is every 3 years, you have to pay that licensing fee. So total cost first year is just under the $600,000.
And then is it recurring licensing every 3 years? It's
Yeah, not all of these would
$133
have to happen
dollars
every
per
year.
camera.
Yeah, so the reoccurring wouldn't be nearly,
We don't know how often they would need to be
Yeah.
repurchased
like
or installed, but at
replace
some point.
the licensing every 3 years.
Well, I guess if we did it voluntarily and there was, what did we figure out, something like 35% of the teachers wanted them the
Mhm.
first year,
Mhm.
cut that
Mhm.
number down substantially.
So maybe 150-ish.
Yeah, that's certainly doable.
Mhm.
It's doable. All right, look at this and feedback.
I think that's really,
That's
it for
it.
today. Well,
So we said we would email you directly if there's revisions that we want to make to this. And
For that
then
first
we'll
one.
do it in our next,
Mhm.
in our October
It
meeting.
goes just to you, not to all, or how are we
Individually.
being slapped on the foot?
Right. Just individually, I guess, and I can
Individually,
reach out,
okay.
I can reach out back individually if there's like conflict in
Okay.
what we're finding.
Sounds good.
Okay. I think with that, I'm gonna ask you to read us into close.
So I did want to mention
Oh, sorry.
the other package you have there.
Section of bylaws.
So that's the one with the bylaws. And actually, they're stapled backwards, so I do apologize about that. If you flip to the back pages, you will find these documents. This is a cross-reference from Sands Anderson. They took the first, I believe it was the first 2 groups of policies to convert them and to make some recommendations for changes. And so you need to look through those. So I was looking through them. We just got those Monday. Or just received them on Monday. So you need to look through them. There are some things that you will need to definitely address. So one of the things I noticed right off the bat is, because we just copied and sent our old policies and they converted them and made some changes, like our vision and mission statements are not the new mission and vision statements. So I've already marked on mine and highlighted mine that we've got to update those.
So sorry, Dr. Bellinger, just to catch us all up, this is basically when we left BSBA policy
Yes.
services. This is us finally circling into Sands Anderson.
Sands Anderson.
Starting kind of at the top. And,
Correct.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
I just knew that.
And you can see that the way they number them is differently. They will number them as a numerical instead of alphabetical. So it'll be like
No more
1.1.
BDDA, BDDCC.
I know, some of those are.
To make more sense.
KPH/KP. What is?
So in that cross-reference check, they did leave out, so you do not have the non-discrimination, which was the AC and ACR, because those are in other policies as well, other books. So we're going to make sure that they're all matched up through.
So they're not A
all
and
of
B, but there's something else.
You will get them later on. They are not, that's why if you look at that back page, they're highlighted red.
Well, we don't have it in red.
You do not have.
Ours is in
Dark
black,
matters.
but-
They're not color copies.
Oh, I thought I hit colored. I apologize.
It's all right. I mean, we can tell them.
Okay,
this, yeah.
well,
After all this time, why are we starting with these 2 things?
Well, I think we're starting with the, like, we have the ones that we've hand selected, but then I think correctly, we're identifying the ones that we want reviewed as we go.
Correct.
But then also,
but they're
this
also
is just
working on the
the
entire
whole thing,
policy.
like
book.
slow speed, working on.
Well, I know, but we went so long without them doing anything with it at all. It just seems odd timing to dive into the,
Well, if they're gonna switch it to numbering, then I guess moving forward, they're trying to lay out the system, right? Is that what's happening?
that's to me.
What is the difference between our policies and our bylaws? Or how
So-
do they relate to each other?
So so when you look, they're really kind of the same. I mean, a bylaw is a policy. They're calling them bylaws. This section, we call them policies, but it's what you're governed by. So
Is that just the
bylaws-
term that Sam Anderson
your
uses as bylaws
bylaws
versus?
are your policies. So this
So
is what
we
you're
say
governed by.
policies and they're
It's
saying
not-
bylaws, and it's the same thing?
And it's-
Yeah.
So your bylaws are your overall policies,
And our policies are,
each individual policy.
okay.
Is that just their terminology?
So we have bylaws and we have policies, and they're two separate things, or they're the same thing?
So, my understanding.
Sorry for being dense.
Okay. My understanding, as you see here, it says bylaws cross-reference,
Uh-huh,
and then here it says proposed policy.
uh-huh.
So it's
Okay,
it's
yeah.
all encompassing of your policies your bylaws are what governs you. You know, basically it's kind of your law that you're following as a.
Aren't the bylaws like the board's policies for ourselves, like what governs our individual, like for instance, you look at the
Yeah, it's
table of
all about
contents, it's the
organization,
mission
so.
statement, beliefs and objectives, and then the school board organizational meeting, like it tells us how to set up us, right? And that the,
But these are our policies, but rewritten as bylaws, right? Is that what we're
Right,
looking
so,
at?
so before they were called foundation and basic commitment, board governance and operation, maybe general school administration.
what are they,
and
it's
so-
still saying changing in here though, what are they, I don't see it, what's the red line?
Well, I think that's what he was just saying, like, they haven't already updated, like, the changed mission statement and stuff like that. It's just basic stuff, right, in this initial,
Right, so
Well,
this
this
is,
is really
this is
basic.
just, they were taking our current policies, changing them over, so really what we have to do is, as a staff also, we have to kick them out, let staff review them. You guys have them as well now, so that as you review them, we can make adjustments to make sure that we're having the conversations we need to have to identify how we use those policies.
because it's still saying bylaws, but then it goes, get numbers on by policy.
Because that's what they're wanting to change it over to the numbers versus.
I feel like this is busy work.
This is really-
I think this is absolutely busy work and it's funny. Bylaws should provide specific authority of the board to adopt policies, identify provisions for adoption, and the vote required for adoption or amendment. Policies reflect the tenet of the board on which current and future decisions are made. Okay, so yeah, so the bylaws, it's like I was saying, it's the things that govern us and how we do things, and the policies are the policies that we set forth for, so bylaws govern the board.
And it does look like these are
Yeah.
about us.
Yeah,
So that
all
makes
this is
sense.
about us, not the things we're
Right.
doing.
So this document is based on our current policies.
Yes,
It's
that's
just
just the
like
bylaws or
reorganized.
the overarching of what is
Okay.
governing and then the policies that fall within those bylaws.
Yeah, because if you
But
look at the policy, it's the quorum, the rules of order,
Right.
that's all.
Right, all
Committees.
the school board business stuff,
Mhm.
but so these are
Voting method.
identical to what we have, other than switching
So
from
no,
member select,
they're
so they're
not
not.
identical
They're not
to what you currently have. So for instance, as I was saying earlier, if you look at, so for instance, it has here regulation 1-5.1 committees. They have about 8 or 10 committees listed. That would be like on the third page, if you're looking at it from your stapled. If you go back from the front now, from the top, from the very front, go all the way to the front page, and then
Yeah.
go 1, 2, on the
Yeah.
third page, it says, if you look, school board appoints the following advisory committees. So they have a lot of other committees that have been listed here. Currently, there are 3 committees, or 2, well, 3. You have the governor's school facilities, and then you have the budget. So
Which is not even on here.
you will need to,
Right.
yeah, yeah, so,
So I
so
think
these
that
are,
would be helpful, to have have a red line, like, so it would have been helpful to have that stuff redlined, like, this is what yours said, this is what ours says.
Well, this is ours, right?
But no, so this is like something that's not in here, like, so, like, they just handed us new policies that don't match ours, so we're gonna have to go through and try and figure out what all is changing.
So there will be some, that, I mean, there's going
Right,
to be
it
some
should be
things that should be
redlined.
the 10. And I can ask for those. I
Please,
just
yeah.
asked for the policies, and these are what they sent.
I
So that's
know,
what the chart is for, so you can look and see that they're basing 1-5.1 on BCE, BCF, BCF.R.
they're basing it on those, doesn't mean it's identical.
I haven't looked at
Right,
it.
typically you would have a red line.
Right.
And if we're talking about committees, one committee that I would like to see added, that I know a lot of other boards have, is they have a board member, and it could even rotate, sit in on, as part of the hiring committee for, especially when it comes to, administration.
Okay, so you're gonna request a red line of this, we're all gonna review these, and then kind of come together to try to convert section A and section B into these new set of bylaws, is our charge, right? Is that
We actually don't know what's different.
Right, because otherwise I'm gonna have to sit there with like my 1,000 pages and compare things. Like, I think we need a red line.
Okay. Okay, so I feel like,
I mean, honestly, it feels wrong to me that we're spending any time or money on starting by rewriting, like, we never discussed, let's start with rewriting or transferring over policy that governs us, like, that, we never said that, like,
They
we
just said that
all
they were gonna
over-
like sit us down and talk to us and
Right.
review staff members, make sure it's doing what we said.
Right, and we had
Is that like a
discussed,
later step, or did that happen?
we discussed starting with maybe
Well, yeah, we
personnel,
started with
start
the
with
lesson.
discipline, but now we're dumping our attention onto this, like, this seems selfish to be like, oh, we're gonna spend time and money talking about our bylaws that govern this board, while we've got that going on out there, like, there's a finite amount of dollars. Like, I don't wanna
Well,
go
I mean-
forward with this at all. At all, this part of it, this is,
we can reach out to them and see, like.
yeah.
They started this about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
But we
Can we do both at the same time?
Needs
Yeah.
We do that.
personnel. That's
They're
what
just
we
starting
said
at the
first.
beginning.
Start at the beginning,
Yeah.
and you work your way through.
Yeah, and I remember we talked about just chunking it, can we do that and continue obviously to work on this? Because I'm gonna
Yeah.
guess that it's probably some different sets of people.
It is.
Like somebody, there's probably a group that's doing this, probably a group that's doing this.
But it all
I
costs.
mean, the bill's all gonna come to
It
us,
does,
but it has to be done.
It has to be
So
done.
I
It all
think
has
we
be
need
done
to be,
eventually.
huh?
Yeah, it all has to be.
It has to be done, so I think this is we do it, together. I don't have a problem with
I
that.
think this is just what we get.
It has to be done, yeah.
It's just not the process that we talked about doing.
You know, when you just thumb through it, a lot of this stuff is what we're already doing. For example, what you read before public presentations is basically the same in this.
That's why we have to.
Committees, all of that is
I
basically
don't-
the same.
I'm willing to bet there's some stuff in there that is definitely not the same. I'm willing to bet.
We'll see the red line
They'll
and
do
then
it.
we'll just go from there, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. I feel like we have another 3 talks.
This motion is made that this open public meeting of Warren County School Board become a closed meeting pursuant to County Code Section 2.2-371. School Board desires to discuss the following matter in closed meeting, Section 2.2-3711A1. Discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of employees of the school board, specifically an employee personnel issue. And I'm supposed to say that we are talking about 3 separate items.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Ms. Lowe,
Aye.
Ms. Salins?
Aye.
Dr. Funk?
Aye.
Mr. Ronaldo?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Go into
Can
closed
we
session.
take a break?
Yes, please.
Yes.